Hey, we are live. It's Sunday, May 7th. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, timestamps will be in the description for your readings. And I'm going to flip the camera. There we go. And all right, we'll just wait for people to show up and we'll hang out for 1 second. Okay. Hey there to everybody showing up. I hope you're doing great. Hope things are good. Hey, Kathy, how's it going? How's everybody doing today? I know we're doing a different start time for the live, so we'll see who is able to make it. Hey, Heather, good to see you. Hope you're doing great. Ooh, hi, how's it going? Intense energy this week. Yeah, you know, the lunar eclipse and the Yeah, it's been an interesting one. Oh, excuse me as I yawn. No, for sure. I mean, this past week I was really guided to rest a lot. I still kind of got a lot of the necessities done, but I'm doing pretty well. I feel kind of tired actually, but not bad. I'm glad we did I'm glad we did the start time we did for today, 3 p.m. Instead of like too much earlier or anything like that. Hey, Stacy, good to see you. Love your readings. They always speak to me. I'm so glad to hear it. I've also been resting a lot too. I feel like it was a good week for it. It was a good time for it. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Um, just finished meditation just in time. Perfect timing, Gabby. It's awesome. So glad you're here. Thank you. Definitely a rest week. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I remember there was someone I was chatting to who was talking about how the lunar eclipse, like it was a good idea to rest. So, and I just did what I was guided to do. It seemed to kind of line up. It seemed to definitely line up with that actually. So, not too bad. Glad I listened though. It's funny because it's so interesting how, at least for me, I tend to always, I don't know if I tend to always like, I don't know if want to work is the best way to say it, but I'll tend to want to really put effort into things and get things done. And it's so funny how you don't realize maybe sometimes how much you need the rest or how much it will be helpful until you're not like necessarily forced to, but like for me, I'm like guided to. I'm like, no, I want to work. I have these things that need to get done by this time frame, and these other things, da 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 da. And then, but if you follow the guidance and like take the rest, like by the time you do start working, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. I feel so much readier and like able to handle this and do this right now. So it's funny how that works sometimes. Are you no longer doing one-on-one readings? At least for now, that's correct. Is yeah. At least for now, we'll see what goes on in the future. But I have definitely needed the break, and for me, in the words I'm hearing to say right now as well, are like I need to transition to something else. Um, I do like what I've been getting really good or facilitating very good results for people with them. I've been, happy with the vast majority of the feedback I've gotten with the one-on-one readings. But for me personally, I need something different, if that makes sense. So it's going to be more helpful for me to move into something else, is what I'd say. So, and it's nothing against like you guys or the people I've been of service to doing the one-on-one readings. It's just not fitting where I need to go and what I necessarily totally like to do, if that makes sense. So, and plus, and I don't talk about this much, is like some of the things I have to kind of go through sometimes to do the one-on-one readings was a bit much, dealing with and it's tough because I don't want anyone to feel like who's taken a reading with me who's here to be like, oh, was it me? Was it my fault? Because probably not. um, but sometimes it's tough personally dealing with a lot of people's energies one-on-one, or I get very drained, or it just takes a lot out of me. Channeling the way it does, the way it works, for whatever reason, the way it works, at least it seemed to work when I've done a lot of one-on-one readings, it takes a lot out of me. So I'd probably either need to like charge a lot more to make it more worth like the amount it takes out of me to do it consistently, for people, which might not necessarily work for the clients. Or I just need to do something else. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So that's correct. I don't do one-on-one readings anymore. I probably, well, I don't know. I don't want to say whether I'm going to end up doing it again or not in the future, but my plan is to transition out of it to be straight up. So, yeah, so I absolutely realize some people might be disappointed or things like that. And I have found myself, there's a lot of people I like miss by not doing the one-on-one readings, because there's some just really amazing people that would book with me all the time, or some sort of consistency, whether it was every month or every 3 months or whatever. And so I do miss that, and I miss a lot of you guys. But yeah, completely understandable. Thank you for the understanding. Loved our readings. Thank you so much, Kautipa. I'm so glad. Do what you have to do for your well-being. Exactly. So I'm the one that sent you the long comments on YouTube. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. S Heaven7. That was I think the last one you sent me, if it was the most recent YouTube video, that was so beautiful. I so enjoyed reading that. And sometimes I don't always have, I don't know if I want to say time or the energy to respond as in depth as I'd like to some of those, because they're so cool to read, and I so appreciate them. And I love hearing about what you guys are getting, out of the readings, and how they're helpful and how they resonate. So thank you so much for the long comments. You don't have to feel obligated to keep giving them if you don't, you have a day you don't want to, but I just wanted to say thank you and really acknowledge it, because it's very cool. Thank you, Leona. Jessica, the membership is great and intimate enough. Little personal messages come through, and awesome. That's part of the plan with that. So I'm glad I'm glad to hear it, and thank you for the feedback on that as well, and mentioning that, Jessica. Thank you so much. Hey, Jessica Johnston. Good afternoon, and thank you. It's funny. I've talked to both Jessica Johnson and Jessica May Jensen, and they both have alliteration, and they're both really cool. So, kind of funny. Hey, Marina, I love you guys too. Thank you, S Heaven. So we probably will start the reading soon, but they're kind of telling me to just hang out for a bit and maybe just chat a bit more with you guys before we dive into those. So, yeah, I might just hang out with you guys for a second. No, but it's true, Jessica. Alliterative twin. I love that. Jessica. Oh, hey, we got another Jessica. Yeah, it's I think that's like one of the names I've noticed a lot. Like and actually there's another Jessica. She doesn't have alliteration that I've done readings for, who's super cool too. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but oh, it's an interesting question. I have a question. What do you think of AI in a spiritual way? Do they have a soul, by the way, and how? No soul is what I'm getting. I might check in, like, if that is a possibility for the future. I'm kind of getting not really, but I'm also feeling weirdly on the fence about it, as far as like maybe vastly in the future. There'd have to be some really weird things that happened with it for it to have a soul. I don't think it will. I I don't even want to say this because I'm saying like unless it mixed with humans in some way, but I don't feel like it's going to in that way. So I get no, it doesn't have a soul. As far as like on a spiritual term here, I've heard some different things from different people, but as far as what I'm getting right now to say, I'm getting it's fine, honestly. Because I've heard some people talk about like, oh, there's like a dark agenda with it or something weird, or maybe I'm thinking of something else I heard and I'm taking it out of context and I didn't really understand what the people were talking about. But let me just sit with it for just a second and see if I get like a good direct message on it for now here. So AI on the spiritual term here. You know, I just get there's nothing wrong with it. Like people might tend to, I don't even want to use the word, but demonize it. But I feel like as long as it's in the right hands, it's fine, honestly. I feel like spiritual, it's almost kind of neutral, actually. It's like just another tool humanity can use. I feel like I'm also getting it was kind of inevitable. It would show up with the track humanity was on with technology. But I feel like the good direction to go with it, or the direction I'm getting would be optimal, would be using it, you know, in tandem with like spirituality or in balance with spirituality. Because it could really help with a lot of like the machinery on Earth and making things better on Earth for people, but it has to be used in the right ways. But I'm also getting like, if anyone was worried about this, it's not going to like take over spirituality because that connection can't be taken over by, you know, physical technology or AI or anything like that. But when used in tandem with it, it's a potent tool, if that makes sense. So, but my mind has been like, oh, interesting. Are people going to start trying to use AI for like readings or like, you know, things like that? I kind of get no, like maybe in the future, but I don't feel like it's really going to replace people who are doing spiritual work is what I'm getting. And it, again, like they said, like it needs to be balanced with people coming from the right place. So that's kind of what I'm getting for right now. I haven't sat with it a ton, which maybe it would have been good if I had because it's been such a prevalent topic, but I'll answer this. Bex asks, do the majority of your downloads come from sentience, visions, hearing things, or what? Yeah, so I don't typically gravitate towards the word downloads for that myself, but that's just a semantics thing, so we don't need to worry about that, excuse me. Definitely like clairaudience, like hearing things for sure. There's also a lot of like claircognizant, just like knowings. I mean, it's kind of like it can be like all of those, honestly, and or combinations of them in conjunction. I do get a lot of like intuitive visuals or channeled visuals are the words I tend to use for it, or like there's a lot of different ways it shows up, honestly. A lot of this, if not most of it, is, and I don't want to pigeonhole it because I like to allow it to be open to whatever's highest and best as far as the way for the messages to show up. But a lot of it's clairaudient, like they're just telling me what to say and I say it, or they're giving me the words and I just say it. Though a lot of the times there can be like intuitive visuals that go along with it at the same time, or it's like you'll hear me attempt to describe it when I'm doing the readings. Like I'll be like, okay, I'm getting this visual and I'm seeing these words and I'm getting like, I won't say I'll get the knowing, but I'll get the knowing of what it's about and what it's saying, or they'll give me the message to say about what this visual means. So it can be a combination, but I don't know. And I don't like to limit it either, because I think sometimes there are ways that it shows up that are new and surprising, you know, depending on the reading or the situation. So it can really show up a lot of different ways, but I hope that answers that in a sufficient way. Okay. So okay, so I think we are probably going to dive into the collective reading in a second here. They don't want to dive in yet, but Okay, we're going to dive into the collective reading. So, collective reading is meant to kind of just be. I feel torn, actually. I feel kind of back and forth on it. So, should we do the collective reading, or what's the best move right here? There might be like one more thing in chat that they want to like speak to that pops up. But otherwise, we'll just dive in just a minute, and I'll drink some water. I love to sit and hear you talk on the live while I'm doing my chores and things. Very comforting. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Waiting on someone. Yeah, we might be. That does happen. Hey, Destiny. I hope you're doing really great today too. So good to see you. Hope you're crushing it. Oh, this is a good question. S. Heaven, do you think we are in a simulation, and what is life on Earth seen that way? I'm not sure if I totally understand the second part, but I've been kind of meaning to talk about this for a long time because it pops into my head a lot. But every time I've checked and every time someone's mentioned it, I always get that we are not in a simulation. This is real, which might freak some people out because I think it's a very common spiritual, well, a lot of people who are leaning more spiritual seem to have a sentiment like, oh, it's a simulation. That's not what I get, and it's never what I've gotten. And I very consistently and vehemently from them, and not in like a negative, vehement way, but they're always like, no, it's real. No, it's real. No, it's real. So that's what I get. As far as the second part of the question, like, what is life on Earth seen that way? I'm so sorry. It might just be like a Mercury in retrograde thing, but I hesitate to jump into questions if I don't totally understand it. And I know like it's tough asking questions sometimes on TikTok chats, in the lives or the comments sections and videos. That's another rant I could get into. There's like such a limited character count that it's hard to go as in depth as you might want to with a question or flesh out, a conversation as much as you'd want. Because there's definitely been people in like comment sections on videos who they say this thing, and I would totally gladly just go into a long in-depth like, hey, I understand why you're saying this, but here's my experience and here's what I'm getting and da 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 da. But because the character count is so limited, it just like turns into this it's like hard to get it across with nuance. And so it like almost seems like it's easy to turn into just like a no, you're wrong, instead of like a hey, let's talk this out. So but yeah, that's okay, so I'm going to jump right into the collective reading now. I'm so sorry, guys. I hate when I get into this like push-pull with like that. Do we start? Do we not start? But I feel like it's time, so we're probably going to jump right in. Water? Yeah, I'll drink some water. So for the collective, it's meant to kind of just be for whoever's here, whoever sees it. Of course, it'll be, there's for you guys now and also whoever's watching on YouTube. And I didn't get like a ton ahead of time for the collective, but we'll just dive into whatever else is coming through, as we sit with this. So I'm going to do this to kind of indicate when it starts. Every week I get better at drawing on the whiteboard. So the first thing that came through for the collective, they're switching it up actually as I sit with this. They're kind of starting with, they're showing me ice and giving me the word ice here. So there might be certain things that become like frozen, and I'll have to sit with any clarifications that are kind of meant to die off, if that makes sense. And I need to kind of be careful with this message because sometimes things are just put on pause temporarily, or the universe is calling you to like rest for a week, and so like there might be some like some things that pop up that are like, nope, you need to be put on pause. But if anything's been like frozen for potentially a long period of time, or it's like frozen in your life and it won't budge no matter what. And I'm going to ask them for more specific examples as well. Like it might be time to like move on to other things, or you might find some of those things start to die off and source kind of gives you a different path or a different thing to replace it. That's better, of course. So an example I could use, and I don't know if it's the perfect example because I'm still not sure where it's going to go in the future quite yet, but there was a modality I was bringing through that I had the name Valeumi for. And if anyone's watching that's been working with that or who's taken like a class with that, what I was getting is like those attunements will be honored. Those symbols will keep working, of course. But there was a kind of a point in time where I'd keep like trying. I taught one class. I had the core class, which was the first class for the modality. And there were about like 10 or 12 or maybe even like 13 like symbols that the people who would take the class would learn and learn to work with and get comfortable with, and they could just add it to their current practice or whatever. And I made like a second class, and I worked on this second class like 3 separate times. I put this class together and like rearranged it and like put it up to have it taught, for me to teach it. And no one booked with it. Just like no one seemed like called to it for whatever reason. And eventually what happened was it kind of just stopped. And then eventually I got a different modality with these different things to teach, and like this new modality is more potent. It seems like it was in some ways like easier to work with or more simplified or streamlined. It seemed in that one I actually have been able to get like a second class off the ground and like taught, which is awesome. So that one's actually moving forward, and we'll see if they end up having me do something different with like the Voleumi symbols or whatever is going on with that, because I'd love to. I did spend like years channeling through like a bunch of those symbols and channeling on those symbols, but that's like the example that's coming to me to kind of talk about this. Like if something gets frozen and then it just kind of, not that it literally dies off, because like again, like there are people who work with those symbols and they tell me they like working with those symbols, or they're still called to like bring them in for things. So it's not like it died literally, but something else had to kind of seems like something else had to come in, if that makes sense. So there might be some things that have been like frozen or like stopped, and it's either like time to move on or you're getting something better, if that makes sense. If you feel like I get this message sometimes, but if you feel like it was you that was frozen, I'm not getting you're gonna die. I feel like you'll be unfrozen and moving forward soon is what I'd say here. The first message that came through ahead of time besides that, and they're kind of switching it up. They're going like the opposite of ice, and they're going fire next, interestingly enough here. I feel like the things that are supposed to move forward are going to be heating up soon, probably post this Mercury in retrograde, if you're watching during Mercury in retrograde, because we're filming during Mercury in retrograde, if I'm not mistaken. And things like those things are going to be heating up and moving forward soon, which will be good. So there will be things like cooking in the kitchen metaphorically and being created, and I don't feel like you're necessarily like stuck or anything like that, which is good. Maybe some of you feel like you are, but you'll get out of that. So besides that, they talked about a collective cleanse that was still underway. I feel like we've talked about this maybe the past couple weeks even, or it's just kind of been a theme for the past while. But I feel like there's just still some cleansing happening with this crowd, whether it's just like emotional and you find yourself like crying or emotional more or triggered more, or you just find yourself going through a little bit to help you release, or like past memories coming through and releasing. I feel like there's a lot being cleansed so we can move forward is something I'm getting, especially again, like post Mercury in retrograde. It is meant to be timeless if you're watching this afterwards. So it just might be a little bit after you see this, like a few weeks or a month, 2 months, probably 3 at the latest is what I'd say around the time period. We're all in different places, but next thing they let me to get to, they showed me a waterfall. They also showed ice with this waterfall as well. The visual was very interesting because it was like a waterfall. It was very clear, but there was also like ice, and like it was someone almost like, it was like someone was like standing on ice, or it was like kind of a snowy landscape. And like as this waterfall was like flowing, like icy bits would like fall and hit like the ground or the ice on top of a lot of the pond or whatever, and just kind of like shatter and like scatter. It was really interesting. But the message was like, if you feel like your path isn't clear right now, like it is going to be clear soon. Kind of a collective message that's been coming through a bit recently in different readings. More recently, like this past week. So that's good, actually. I just, in the way that they kind of are bringing through that message with clear, like the ice was very clear, like the water was very clear. So that's kind of what they were showing with that one. It kind of ties in with cleanse as well. Sometimes they bring in waterfalls along with cleanse, kind of like, like standing in the shower and cleansing, standing under a waterfall and cleansing, things like that. So the next message is that there are like a lot of surprises that are unfolding for this crowd. Not necessarily negative, but next week or two, I just feel like there's like surprising events or, Jack in the Boxes. They're showing me a Jack in the Box where it's like, and it's just kind of like, boom, and you're like, just a little bit surprise. And they're also showing like maybe metaphorically you round a corner and like something's there that you're not expecting, whether it's a move you're making in work or maybe that's going to physically literally happen. Like you round a corner and there's like a car crash there or, I don't know, a clown or something. I don't know. But you understand what I'm saying. And I know that's a little bit general, but when that message comes up, I just always find like some type of surprises are happening. And sometimes they can be very neutral or just like, oh, I didn't realize that person was transgender. Okay. And like they make a post on like Facebook or something or, like coming out or something, or you just didn't see it coming, or, sometimes there's like a billion other things that could happen, but you get it. So the next thing they show me, anything else we should get to before we move on with that here? I feel like these surprises are probably going to be a bit more personal to you though, like in your personal life. It actually might not be work related as much is kind of what I'm getting for like maybe 77% of you is what I'd say. It's like a surprise change in your personal life. That's not bad. They keep clarifying it's not bad, so I wouldn't worry too much. But something like that happening. I don't know, maybe like a friend unveils something to you or something happens with a friendship and you just didn't see that happening or something like that here. So that's what I'm getting with that. Next, they showed me a fighter jets, and it was like an F-18, if that matters, or like an F-22, if you're into fighter jets. And fighter jets have been like, I didn't usually get a lot of fighter jets for these readings, but the past like couple weeks, especially on like YouTube, like, because I do readings on YouTube that are separate from these like lives that I repost. And like fighter jet came through like the past 2 weeks on that. They really don't always like me talking about other readings I do, like, or things that have come through in other readings with these, so I'll hold off. But what they said here is like things can move forward more quickly than you realize. It's like, but they kind of showed it, and like maybe you have to almost, in a weird collective way, like wait your turn to like fly forward. But when it is your turn, it will be time soon. So maybe you see like someone else like take off or shoot forward, or someone else like launch in a different direction or something. And they're showing me like Star Wars, how like the ships would go into like sorry, I forgot my nerd terminology, but they go into like warp speed or hyperspeed or whatever. And they warp really quickly, faster than the speed of lights to somewhere really distant. But like you have the ships that go like boom, 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 and just kind of like poof, like fly off really quickly. So you might have to metaphorically wait your turn for your like hyperdrive or whatever. Or, like if people were jumping out of an airplane to parachute, like you kind of have to wait your turn to jump out of the plane. But your time is coming and it will happen. So be patient until then, I suppose. It doesn't mean you'll have to get there all that much slower if you have to wait for things to like speed up or for your turn here. And next, as a contrast to the fighter jet, they showed a snail, which sometimes they do, but it was a very different message. And we kind of already touched on this with the first ice message that came through, but the message is like many things like die. So like, on Earth, like there's like cycles or things have their lifespan. So pay attention to the cycles in your life and what is like dying off, what is rebirthing, like where things are headed with all that. Cause you might be surprised at what comes to an end and what begins, but it's like all part of this like natural cycle of things. And they did put in parentheses next to it, surprise changes, to clarify it a little bit further. So, there might be like things that you thought were going to last for like 10 years that end like now, but it's like, that is the natural cycle. Like that's the natural time for it to end, even if it comes as a surprise, and you'll kind of get this rebirth into like another area, of course, or like something else will come along in the next few months or maybe sooner to replace it or things like that. And if something comes up that you need to grieve, like, of course, do what you need to do to take time to grieve it. I don't feel like this is all necessarily going to be devastating or anything like that. But, sometimes surprise endings just kind of like catch up to you and things like that. And again, I don't necessarily feel like this is a bad thing. It's just kind of like the natural like cycle of things in a weird way, if that makes sense. And sometimes we kind of, get caught in thinking certain things are going to last forever, and then they don't, and it surprises us. So I don't know why that's coming through as a message right now, but it is. There's at least one more for the collective, and then we'll probably move on to the fire signs. So let me see what this message is, because they're showing me amethyst, and what's up with the they're also kind of showing me some other things like rainbow and an opal. So what's up here? So what they're kind of talking about, which isn't like the first thing I'd equate with what they were showing me, but they're showing me how things are going to get more and more and more magnetic, so to speak. And this is what they're saying is it's like more of a good thing, actually. Because you're going to start to attract more and more and more and more that's for you, and like collectively that's what's going on here. Because they're showing someone like walking, I don't know why they were like in amethyst, and it was very strange because the visual was like in this white space and there was like an amethyst kind of floating there. I guess you could say it was higher dimensional in a weird way. But then they were kind of borrowing from this video game from like a long time ago. There was a video game called The Legend of Zelda, like Twilight Princess. And in this video game, I think I must have been in like 8th grade when this came out, or maybe it was like my first year in high school. But there's this item that where you get these like iron boots, and there was this like this level, or if you will, where you'd put on these iron boots and like turn on this like magnetic thing, and like you'd get like magnetized up onto like the roof, and like to solve this like room or get to this next place you need to get to, you'd have to like walk on the roof with these like magnetic boots essentially. And they showed like someone kind of walking in this white space, and they're going in a certain direction, but then like the magnetism keeps getting stronger, and they're like in these boots, and they get like magnetized over like this way to like something else. I feel like this is a good thing, because maybe there have been like some like just random things, but as things get more magnetic and it ramps up more and more, it's like things just kind of like work a bit better, because you're just like magnetizing the things you need, the things you desire. You're kind of repelling the lower experiences more. So I actually think as a result of this, or in tandem with this, things are going to get more and more magical. And things might take some left turns as a result, but it's like exactly what needs to happen, and it's better, is what I'd say with this message. So very strange, but things are becoming more magnetic, I suppose, in positive ways that are aligned. And I feel like it's time for this, and I feel like the higher vibrational people are just going to be having like naturally like higher experiences, and maybe the people who aren't quite there yet are going to be maybe just attracting in more of the lessons they need to get more higher vibrational and learn to attract better, if that makes sense, just naturally with, I guess you could say, with their vibration and like the ways they approach the world and things like that. So it's almost like things will kind of be more fair in a strange way. Okay, so that's it for the collective reading. Hope that was helpful and did whatever was for your highest good with everyone who caught that one. And we're going to move to the fire signs next here, but I'm probably going to drink some water first and talk to some people in chat for a second. It's not my prettiest check mark, but it'll work. You're welcome, Destiny. I'm so glad to hear it. I'll also give a shout out to the moderators who are here, who are helping. Destiny is one of them, and sometimes other ones show up like China Moon Girl and other ones. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them for helping chat run smoothly if they are. And I don't mean like you guys don't. That wasn't meant to be passive aggressive, but that came out wrong. But you know, anywhere you're helping out or anyone else is helping out in chat or letting people know what's going on, I so appreciate it. And the reason I said what I said is like, if you get busy and like you have to help kids or cook, and you just have this on in the background, like no obligation or pressure to like pull yourself away from that. And that's what I'm trying to say. Thanks, Bree Wallet. I appreciate it. S7, do you believe it's possible to have the same guide as someone else? Yeah, overall, I almost want to say yes and no, but like yes is what I'd say. I mean, like one thing you could say is like, look at how many people work with like Archangel Michael. You know, I don't feel like it's so like limited and finite that we all have to have like specifically different guides and things like that all the time. But I feel like we each have what we need, if that makes sense. Okay, they want me to move on to the fire sign, so I'm going to do that. Boop, boop, boop. Come on. Okay, I did my best. I did my best with that circle. Okay. So for the fire signs, if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is for you when you see it. Got channel messages that came through ahead of time. I have a pretty good amount. And then, of course, my spirit guides, the angels and source, who brought those through, will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. And what they like to have me say is like, your spirit guides will jump in if it's for the highest good of both of our systems and it's necessary for the reading and it's going to lead to the best outcomes for everyone. They might jump in as well. So the first thing that came through for the fire signs, usually this comes through for the earth signs, but UFO, like a UFO came through. And I really like this message for you guys. They gave the phrase out of this world. They just said, you are headed towards things that are out of this world for you. So kind of like the next level, or maybe even the next couple levels. Maybe you're skipping a grade in some way, like a new job or career, that are like out of this world for you, or people, or maybe you're just going to be out of this world. You're leveling up, new results that are out of this world, etc. So really positive message, actually. You might have to let go of a few things or some mindsets or things as this happens, but I feel like that's for most of you already underway or under process. I don't feel like it's going to be exceedingly difficult or anything like that. Sometimes when we're ready to move on or it's just time for things to shift, it's just naturally we just kind of let go of what we need to let go of. Things shift and things happen. So you don't need to like beat up on yourself and force this to happen, but I'd say this is coming is what I'd say as well. There's been all these messages of like new paths for like almost like, I don't know if I'm getting the timing right on this, but I want to say like months even, but I feel like it's been more recent, like the past couple months maybe. What I'm getting is like this year is a big year for like paths shifting, for a lot of you at least. Perhaps even like for the fire signs, even if it's like subtle or it's just like you just set your sights higher in a different direction than you were expecting to, or some truths are unveiled and it just kind of forces you to walk a little bit differently than you normally would, through the world, through life. But a lot of new paths are coming for a lot of you, and some of you are already in this transition or you're heading towards it. So for some of you, you've already done this and you're on this road, but things might shift more. It's kind of what I'm getting. So that's also just a message there sneaking in. And a lot of different people had that message today as far as messages that came through for you today. So it seems like that's kind of in the air for everybody. And it kind of makes sense also with like eclipse season and just like what's going on in the world. I think we're all just getting rearranged to like where we need to go for the future and to like who needs us and maybe to the people that we need even. So all that's kind of rearranging and borrowing from the collective reading we just did, how like the magnetism is like upshifting in a way. It's kind of like that can change things on its own as well. If our gravitational pull towards things is a little bit different, or a magnetic pull towards things is a little bit different, to use those metaphors, or maybe it's quite literal, but we'll see. On a metaphysical level, they're saying the gravitational one was more metaphorical. So we'll just move forward and I'll let you have the understandings that are best for you. But next they showed me a waterfall, and which was kind of a common thing showing up today, I think, as well. They just said like you're being cleared of like falseness, like false beliefs, things that are like false around you, illusion, and your path is being cleared so you can move forward more. I feel like it has been cleared. I feel like it's just like clear more down the way as well. Like I just feel like I don't know if it'll all be easier, but it will at least be easier for you to move forward or to kind of glide along your path, if that makes sense. And sometimes we hit these patches that are a little bit rockier and bumpier, or we go off-roading for a second and we have to kind of get back to the path, and get to the smoothness or whatever, a smoother path. But if things have been like a little bit sticky for you, I feel like there's like a certain amount of like stickiness that's leaving as well. Like you're kind of being washed of sticky energies as part of this message, interestingly enough. And I'm getting a weird message. Like, sometimes like illusions aren't like, it's not like we choose them. it's like, you know, maybe sometimes we like inherit them as like worldviews that our parents gave us, or just maybe certain people around us tend to hold up illusions or images and they don't even realize they're doing it. They're just, you know, maybe that's how their parents taught them to move through the world, you know, with the, to use this perhaps overdone metaphor, like with the masks and things like that. But I said this last week, I think, but truth is really something that's rising right now. So I feel like illusions or veils or masks or whatever are just going to be like just penetrated more and more. Like they just won't be able to hold up as well as the light rises, as the vibrations rise, as truth rises more. So it could just be a natural consequence. But I feel like just some specific, like more physical things are happening to unveil some things for you as well, which will be actually helpful for you, is what I'd say. And maybe sometimes we have our own illusions about like what having XYZ thing is going to give us, or even illusions about like where we're headed in life or things like that through like a specific job or circumstance. And when that gets unveiled, it's a bit of an uproar, because maybe we feel like we've wasted time on something, or with I'm not trying to get you to second guess things in your life, but like with a person or like with a friendship. And I'd say like, you probably got what you needed from those things and like from this lesson or whatever is going on, you know, if something gets unveiled like that. And, you know, some of you, like you're all in the exact right place, but some of you, like you are around the right things. So you don't need to worry about this. But if things do get unveiled or more illusions are just kind of like falling, I just kind of say thank you and trust that it's leading you to, a more truth-filled and like better place overall, because you know, there's that quote, they don't want me to give that quote. I was going to go these different directions with it, but they don't really want me to, so I'm just going to guess you don't need to hear my take on those things. Next here, anything else with that before we move on here? Nope, beat that to a pulp, so we're going to move on. What else do we get to here? They did show me this spirit animal just loves to show up for like all the readings, and it's just our good friend elephants, but it's a different message than normal. The message for you guys right now is rest, actually, and like especially if you are overworked, you should really take extra time to rest. The other message was like you are going to start realizing certain things about the past, and like things are going to start clicking into place, like just about like the past, or like puzzle pieces clicking in, or to kind of tie in with the last message. They're kind of talking about how sometimes we have these like illusions about the past. Like maybe we thought like XYZ person we were interested in was going to be our happiness or something like that. Or the way they're showing it to me is almost like it's like looking at the past, but like the glass or like the lens you're looking through it is like shattered. So like you have like all these cracks. It's a little bit like distorted. But if that were like kind of healed and you had an appropriate like view of things and you saw everything very clearly, you'd be like, oh, like I see why this thing didn't work out, or this person didn't work out, or why I couldn't go in that direction. Like it makes total sense. But whether it's like, because I don't feel like this is necessarily all because of trauma. Sometimes to me, when they don't want me to get into this definition, so I'm not going to for this message at least. But I was thinking like, okay, never mind. They don't want me to say it. So what would be for that for me to say to kind of round this message out here? I feel like really to simplify the message, your view of the past is healing so you can move on, is what I'd say. Next, they showed me a grasshopper, which is also another friend who's been showing up a lot recently. But different message today: hop away from things that bring you down, especially if they consistently bring you down, whether it's someone who brings you down verbally or otherwise, or maybe you watch a show and you find you're like, every time you watch the show, you just feel like down or jarred, or it just doesn't feel very good to you. You know, just pay attention to that and, you know, take a hop away from those things is what I'd say. Even if it's a job, by the way, I don't know if I advise hopping away from a job if you don't have just some sort of safety net or something in place. If you're someone who's very divinely or intuitively guided and you know how you work and you're getting to leave a job at a certain time, like trust yourself on that, is what I'd say. But, you know, if there's anything that's consistently bringing you down, I'd just say it's time to hop away from that soon, if not right away. In the next message, they show me train tracks, and gave this very strange visual of because they almost looked like one of those old 8-bits or like 16-bit, or I don't remember the terminology for it, but you know, those like Game Boy games or like NES games where you'd kind of have this top-down view and you'd have this little like 2D sprite running around on the world and stuff. But they showed like someone like a character like that, like hopping on a train, and like the train was like chugging away. The message was like sometimes you have to go to something completely different to get different results. So this train was like just taking you to something completely different in this visual. And life is about to show you a completely different way to go about things that's going to bring you new results that are like that lead you to the highest and best for you, or work better for you. So it's kind of like maybe you don't like realize, some of you really, you're caught in certain habits and patterns and kind of like doing a lot of the same things or like approaching things the same way as you did. Not all of you, this isn't going to be specifically true for all of you, but as an example, like maybe you find yourself doing the same things you've been doing like from like 5 years ago, but you keep consistently getting the same results, and maybe that's great for you. Maybe like there's something better and you don't like it. I don't know, maybe as an example, like maybe you go out drinking every Sunday, but and I know not all of you are over 21 probably, but maybe like if you stopped going out drinking every Sunday, you'd kind of do something else and get different realizations, and your life would kind of gradually go in a different direction. But I feel like in some ways, like you're either being guided to switch things up, or you're just naturally going to be taken on a different track on like how you approach things, and it's going to lead to new results, which will be better is what I'm getting. But I almost feel like this is the universe forcing you to change things. Like it might not even be your choice. It's like you have a habit or pattern, and like, I don't know, again, like maybe you go to a certain bar every Sunday, but it's like closed, and you're like, oh, what do I do? And you kind of don't know what to do with yourself for a second. So you just go home, and then things start changing with that time and space that's opened up for you. So weird example, but you understand what I'm saying. It's just kind of like you'll be changing things in the long run. So next they showed me an aux, and we kind of hit on this already, but we're going to hit on it again and perhaps hit some different things as well. But with the aux, it was a very all caps message of don't overwork yourself if you can help it. I know sometimes we're in these obligations. We already volunteered to work 70 hours a week and then, babysit, someone's kids, and then, I don't know, whatever else people do. But they also said, like, try to delegate or spread out your tasks in a certain way if you need to, but or find a different way to do things if you are consistently overworked. I feel like it's not going to be the way of the future, to consistently overwork yourself. And I know sometimes we're in these time periods where we have to do a lot more than maybe we normally would, or we have to kind of sprint, and that's just kind of like it's like our rite of passage maybe to get to the other side and have something different, if that makes sense. Like, people start up companies and they have to work 18-hour days until things are at a certain place, or, maybe you have to like work 2 jobs until you have a certain amount of money to do this, to have a down payment on a house, and then you have a lesser mortgage payment than your rent, and then you can just work 1 job. I don't know. Things like that happen, but so trust yourself and like listen to yourself on this. But if you can help overworking yourself and do something different, I would try to find a different jam with that. Next, also just kind of a consistent message showing up for a lot of people, but I feel like if you have been stuck for a long time in something, like higher ways are coming, as we've kind of been saying. They also showed me like high ways, besides the term higher ways, and said you are on the fast track to what you desire. No more detours. I feel like there's like a few of you who are watching this, or who will watch this on YouTube, who have been like really, really, really working towards something that you've been like looking to manifest or create. And I feel like that's going to happen. And like for the rest of you, the other side of that for the rest of you is, I feel like you actually are heading towards things you desire more than you realize. And it could be like through some of the changes that are upcoming that we've been talking about here. Or maybe you've been like waiting a long time for certain things, and things are like starting to head in that direction, but maybe it's different than you thought it would be, or something like that. For some reason, I'm getting there are going to be less detours to what you desire. And maybe you're used to detour city where all you have are detours, but I feel like that's coming to an end with this phase. So that's cool, is what I'd say. So for some reason, a lot of you, if not all of you, on the fast track to what you desire in some way, shape, or form, or things are changing so you have a faster track towards that. So there were some just like really brief last second messages that came through towards the end as I was kind of just channeling these. And one there was this message of grass, and this message has popped up here and there recently, but when they showed me grass, they just showed someone just like sitting in the grass and just like meditating or just breathing, and just like, okay, breathe. I don't feel like this is the message, but some of you might feel called to do that. Beyond that, there was a quick reminder just to make sure you're watering your garden and not like spilling all your water out onto other people's gardens. Or they're kind of showing another message of like, I'm not a big religion person at all, but I grew up Catholic, so I remember, you know, by choice or not, some of the 10 commandments that religion tried to like force on you. And one of them was like not coveting your neighbor's like wife, I think, but they're changing it a little bit where it's like not necessarily like do your best, you know, not to overly covet like what other people have, and instead like what can you grow in your garden, or what can you grow with in your grass here, you know. So and you know, the other side of that's a different message for some other ones of you, is sometimes we're really called, if that part didn't resonate, for others of you, okay, can I get this out of my mouth, please? You know, sometimes we just pour into other people's worlds and other people's lives, and we're like helping people, like watering their gardens. We kind of just forget to water our own. Even if it's, again, this example keeps coming up today, but it's an example, so it might not resonate for every single one of you. But if we have a job that takes too much of our time and we're pouring into our, you know, our boss's cup through that, or coworkers or something like that, and then we kind of have like just drops in the bucket left for ourselves afterwards, like if you can try to balance that out, I would, but just make sure you're watering your garden enough that you like where you're at, or you're creating you liking where you're at more, which I don't feel like was the exact message, but if I could get a good summary for you guys to help you out with this one, I feel like now is the time for self-care is what I'd say, and making sure your garden's watered. Simple as that, I suppose. So we already talked about you having a higher road coming. I feel like that's just kind of activating for a lot of people. And, you know those like, it's almost like a meme almost, or something like that, like shows will use as like a point of humor with this kind of phrase, but it's like how people talk about like everything in my life is led up to this or something like that, or culminated in this. So you might have a higher road where you feel like a lot of things in your life have culminated to like, oh, this makes sense, let's go there. Or you're just already traversing it, and you're about to see that it is a higher road. And I don't know, maybe you've been second guessing like a choice you made or something like that. And the last thing I have here ahead of time for the fire signs is don't beat up on yourself about the past. It's time to heal that. So kind of one of those messages where the past is the past and you can't do much about it. Like, yeah, if you like work with Reiki or healing energy, like, or modality, like you can facilitate healing for the past. You can do all that jazz, and which is probably a good idea itself, but it's really, it's not worth beating yourself up about the past overly much. Cause like I'd learn from it, but it's like, you are of course, this is a bit obvious, but you are in the now. So like if you're just beating yourself up about the past, like you're just kind of making your now you beating yourself up about the past, when you could be doing something to like change things, or watering your garden or doing something different. So if you catch yourself doing it, that's okay. I think a lot of us are taught into that and are given that habit, I suppose, or we think it absolves us of something if we beat ourselves up and try to punish ourselves, or whatever weird thing that we're taught into, but I'd say it's time to release that and find a better coping mechanism or skill or way of handling that, if that's you. But I feel like beating yourself up about the past isn't helping anything, and it's just kind of time to take the lesson and move on. So we're going to close the fire signs reading there. There might be one more message here. They are showing a lot of things just grounding in for you. So like realizations, new things. Again, we talked about new paths, new directions. Like I feel like this is true for a lot of people right now, but there's just like a lot of new kind of birthing or coming in this year for people. So I feel like you're going to start to see a lot of the things that are meant to come in for you for the rest of the year. Like just either you're going to get the premonitions of them, or the, or whatever, or you're just going to start to see that start to come in this month is what I'd say whenever you're watching this. So yeah, that's what I'm hearing there. They were also showing me clouds, but they were showing things like grounding in from above the clouds. They almost looked like these like big stone spires or something alien, maybe even kind of grounding into the ground and kind of coming down to the earth and manifesting in your reality. But good news for you guys is there is a lot of wish fulfillment coming, is something I'm hearing last second as we kind of go to close the reading. Like especially in the next 2 months. And it might not be like literally everything you desire and all your hugest manifestations show up tomorrow. And I'm never going to limit it and say they can't, but maybe just like more wish fulfillment than usual is what I'd say. Or something's coming in, which is cool. Okay, so anything else before we close it out here? They're kind of saying they're done with that one. So I hope that was helpful and did whatever was for the highest good for you. And, whatever, yeah, all that. So I'm gonna check the board. And we're gonna move to the earth signs in just a second. Hope everyone's having a good Sunday. Hope everyone had a good week and a good eclipse. Hey. Cool. Very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. So glad to hear. It was very helpful. That's always part of the aim. Always a big aim that these are helpful. Because, what am I doing if it's not in some way helpful? And I guess there's other things you might come to the readings for, whether it's healing or whatever, but hopefully it's at the very least helpful. So anything else before we dive into the earth signs? I'm going to drink a little bit more water. First time to catch you live. So thankful I'm here. That's so cool. So glad to have you here. Hope you're digging it. You're expressing your art and letting your inner child play. That's what. Hey, that's valid. That's valid. Because when I went to say like, what else am I doing if it's not helpful? They were kind of like, not like red flag, but that wasn't totally true. But still, part of the aim for me is that it is helpful. But thank you, Jessica. That's a good perspective for sure. It's a good message. So, very helpful, Jessica. Next, we're going to move to the earth sign, sun, moon, or rising. So if you have an earth sign, sun, moon, or rising, just got here. What have you missed? You don't have to apologize to me if you missed any of the live. That's okay. They will be on replay. Will be on YouTube if you miss anything. But we did collective. We did fire signs. We had a bit of a chat, not a bad chat, but we chatted a bit before we delved into the collective reading. So that's all you missed. So we're moving into the earth signs. Hopefully you can see the whiteboard. I know it's like a little bit small because I can see the screen here, but the one that is circled is and not checked is the one that we're currently on. So earth sign, sun, moon, or rising. This is for you when you see it. So you now live or you on YouTube. We got channel messages that came through ahead of time. And of course, my spirit guides and angels and source bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. I say that a lot. Headed to an art fair, going to catch the rest on replay. Have a great time. You have a great art fair, Jessica. I hope you have a great time. Hope things go perfectly for you. So, here we go. The first message that came through for the earth signs, unless they want to switch it up and give me a different one. So they're showing, where do we start here? They're showing me a quartz crystal, interestingly enough, and it looks like a Lemurian quartz crystal, actually, that I have. It's like a point, and it's like sticking up out of the ground, like someone stuck it in the ground, butt end down, and it's sticking up. So what's the message here with this one? So weirdly enough, what I'm getting with that message is like you're almost being called to like stand for something, or you will be standing for something more, like your values, or what's the best way to say this here? I feel like if you need to stand up for something, it's like it's time. And for some of you, you're coming to this reading and maybe that hasn't happened yet, but maybe I don't know, maybe tomorrow or a week later, like you have to stand up for something in your world or something like that. But I feel like the more you're standing for your values and standing for what you're here to stand for, if that makes sense, like you're going to be changing the world. And sometimes, weird message, but what I'm hearing is sometimes all someone needs to hear or maybe see is like you standing for something and standing like solidly in something that's like real and true and worth standing up for, like, again, like your values, and like that can help to change them, if that makes sense, or that can be the example that helps them stand for something, or things like that. I don't want to put this on people, but the message I'm getting is like there are a certain amount of people. They said a lot. They said there are a lot of people out there that can be a little bit, and I'm not trying to say this as you or anything, but who are just like flimsy with like what they're standing on, or how they view things, or maybe they're like easily swayed, or they just don't know what to stand for. And there's nothing wrong with you if you feel like you don't right now, or you're still figuring that out. I think a lot of people can sometimes be trained into being on the fence. Not everyone. And sometimes I think being on the fence isn't even a bad thing. I think sometimes if you're not as informed on something, it doesn't make sense to just have a staunch and avid opinion if you're just not informed with an area of life, or don't have an opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But at the risk of sounding like a broken record, regarding your values, probably going to be time to stand up for something. And I don't know, for some reason I was getting a weird message. Like some people kind of seem to stand on a flimsy ground where they don't like stand for much, or they don't have anything to stand for. But I would be brave and do that. If not that, but stand for something. So I feel like I'm going to start talking in circles if I stay on that. So hopefully that makes sense. And if not, hopefully it makes sense in the future as things play out. But the next message here, there's a bit more with that visual they were showing me though as well. Because there's also like a crown around this crystal that's in the ground. It's almost like the more you stand up for certain things, or stand for certain things, the more you're going to stand out. As far as like some examples of like what you might be standing for, or just something that would help you like with this message if you need it to help understand it a bit more, what would be the highest and best message to help you with this? I don't know. Maybe you feel called to stand for like living in alignment with source, and you have the divine guidance or the intuition to do that, and you kind of stand with that no matter what like people around you say, or if people try to like, nudge you out of that or whatever. And like that could be reaffirming to other people who feel called to do that, or that could just teach people that there is something to stand for in life, or something like that. It's a very strange message, but I don't know. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Next, they gave me the word grounding, and they said like, it was kind of an interesting message, but they said the earth is actually bringing you a little bit more grounded than normal, so you can rest appropriately. And this isn't like a bad thing. They also clarified like you'll still be able to do what you need to do. This might even be like, this might only happen like when you rest, like the earth does something to bring you grounded, or your spirit guides or angels do something to bring you grounded, or maybe you just naturally find yourself grounding more easily when you rest. Because I know some of you like channel or do intuitive work, and I don't know, I've heard different takes from different people. Like some people will talk about like, oh, it's like you become ungrounded if you do this, or some people are like, oh, you can be grounded and still channel, and things like that. So whatever, if grounding would get in your way in any sort of way, if that's you, that would happen. This is probably not going to actually inhibit anything. It's just going to happen at the right times for you that are helpful for you. But I feel like that's also going to help you like perhaps like ground in some downloads. And by downloads, here's where we get into like all this semantics with spirituality. Because for some people, downloads means like intuition, like you got an intuition or something. I don't typically use that word for that personally. For me, like downloads would be like you're getting an upgrade. Like you have to me, like that happens, like I'll get like a stream of energy like from source or something. And that can happen a lot during eclipses, like whether you want to call it like ascension energies or upgrades, or just upgrades or things like that. So, you can use downloads for that event as well. Like maybe you're getting downloads like that, or upgrades, and like you getting grounded helps you assimilate things, or maybe it just helps you assimilate some life lessons you've been going through, but it's still like wiring in, and like you kind of wake up after this, whether it's a resting period or whatever happens, you're like, oh, like all these things just kind of start to click in for you as you move forward or percolate or whatever. So it's kind of what they're showing me with that one. Again, the fire signs had this message, but I would rest if you feel overworked. That's not going to be for all of you though. Like, I don't feel like all of you need that. So take that as that particular message as it resonates for you. Next, they showed me water and said you are being called to cleanse. So, but I feel like it's more like a deeper cleanse. So, like you might even be called to like book a healing session or throw on some things on YouTube that are cleansing for you, or some channeling sessions from a channeler you listen to, or whatever. But take extra time to like clear your energies, perhaps to do extra for yourself regarding that. It's kind of time to cleanse both like past things and like certain present things. So whatever you do to cleanse, maybe do it more or just spend more time on it, or book something for yourself that's like going to be cleansing for you. Something that's popping in right now as another example is like a salt cave. If you ever go into a salt cave, one, I like salt caves. With the times I've tried them, they've been nice, but especially if you're a little bit iffy on salt caves, at the very least you can like set the intention that like, okay, we're going in here, the salt is going to be cleansing for the highest good. Anything I release in here is going to be transmuted to unconditional love and light, or I'm going to ask the angels to take it and like take it to the earth for transmutation. So it's, do whatever you have to do with that. But it could be another way you just kind of cleanse your energies. And oftentimes salt is it's a cleansing thing to have around, whether it's salt lamps or whatever, or so consider that is what I'd say. The other part of this, they also like showed me like purple grass, and they showed me this like alien landscape. The other message with this is that source is going to, or actually it's just a different message, but source is going to take you somewhere like unfamiliar in some way so that you can have new results, even if it's in like a subtle way. So sometimes you get caught in like routines, but once you break those routines, you can start to see things more clearly. So I'm not sure why they grouped this in with this water message, but it could be as drastic as like you go on a trip somewhere new. It could be very subtle where like you're just kind of in a different energy than you normally on, or you're normally in, or maybe you're watching something different on YouTube, spiritually than you'd normally watch, or you're in a conversation having a conversation with someone, and you're talking about something different than you guys normally talk about, or something like that. You're just kind of in a new space that's kind of breaking the mold and the routine, and you're kind of getting more clarity through those things. So I feel like in some way, like source is going to have you break routine and create something different, or even if it's subtle, or even if it's just, I don't know, you'll get it. Could even be happening now or in the near future. Next, they said you are on a new road and it is going to lead to great places. So a lot of you are on a new road already. It's leading to good places. Some of you are in that transition. Some of you, this hasn't come in yet, kind of similar to the fire signs reading. And of course, like it's sun, moon, or rising. So sometimes you'll watch different ones of these readings that are for you. And you'll get repeating messages, and I would just pay attention to those, But I feel like if you feel called to a new road, now is the time. Next, they showed me dice, but they also gave me the word like dicey. Like something's dicey. So if you are dealing with anything dicey in your life, just like do your best to play it safe regarding that particular circumstance, and you're going to be fine. So what would be an example of that here? They're showing me a very strange example, but if like you were going skydiving and you have your parachute, like you'd probably want to like double check your parachutes on. I know you probably have like a million safety precautions in place if you're going parachuting and you have like the licensed skydiver with you or whatever, but I don't know, like you'd probably double check you had your parachute on right, and like you'd probably make sure you had gear that was like checked and like certified, ready to go, and things like that. So another example that might pertain a bit more to like your circumstances might be if you're like quitting a job, maybe there's a way to play it safe where you have like a safety net in place, or you make sure you have like different opportunities lined up before you just jump ship, or things like that. So, and do whatever you're intuitively guided to do. But for whatever reason, if something's dicey right now, do your best to kind of play it safe. And like, I don't know, maybe you're between jobs and maybe you just don't spend all your money on a trip to Hawaii or something like that. So next they showed me an elephant, and they kind of talked about how the elephant has big ears, and the message is like you're actually going to be getting like cascaded with a lot of good advice soon. So the other message was like, just take what works for you and leave the rest, which was very strange because it seemed like you were getting a lot of good advice. So let me see if they'll clarify that a bit more for you here. I think sometimes you just get more than you bargained for. And like you're just like sitting in like a treasure trove of like stuff. And in this case, it seems like it will be advice. The example that's coming to me to kind of explain this a bit more is when I was in high school, me and some friends would have this thing where like we were both really into like, metal and like rock music. And so we'd kind of trade CDs with each other, and then we'd kind of take the CDs and like load them up onto our iTunes, and then we could kind of all like take turns or listen to music and like kind of expand our palette and expand our music taste and see if we liked different things. And what we kind of found was like if we gave more than like 1 or 2 CDs at a time to each other, it would just be overwhelming and you just like wouldn't listen to it. Like maybe you'd listen to like one or like half of one, and then you'd be like meh, and then you kind of like have like a CD that like sat there forever. But if you just did like, you just traded 1 CD at a time or traded like 2 CDs at a time, then it's like you would listen to that CD. So maybe you get like a lot of advice and you can only like use a certain amount of it at a time, or you kind of have to like pick and choose like what's for you right now. The other thing they're kind of saying to clarify this, which might be a bit more on the mark with what they're trying to say, probably is because they're guiding me through it a bit more, is like, whether it's good advice or not, it's like, if it works, it works, is kind of what they're saying. So I would just be taking what's working right now. And don't try to force something if you're not ready for it, is another part of that. If you're getting like a ton of good advice and you like it all, just pick the things that you feel like will work for you now and then implement the rest later or try the rest later. Next, they showed me a higher calling and said like, they are really on this theme today and recently for some reason, but you do have higher callings coming in. And it could just be like the collective is upgrading and up-leveling, and so the paths that people are on are as well, or the paths that you are on as well are upgrading, if I can get the words out right. But just heed those higher callings whenever they show up. Like some of you are already like on the higher calling right now, and it's going to lead to great places. I think I already said this to you. The other thing that came through as I was bringing this message through, they were showing me like Gandalf very vividly. And they were showing like the Hobbit and like a Hobbit Hill and the Shire and all these like Lord of the Rings things. And like, as I kind of sat with this, I didn't get the full message yet, but I'm guessing they're either going to bring through the rest of it now that we're in the reading, because I was kind of sitting with it and I wasn't getting too much more. And then like Gandalf was there, and in his Gandalf voice, he was like, pay attention to your surroundings. So let me sit with it for a second longer and see if they want to add anything to it or anything like that here. Okay, here's another thing they're adding to it. With like the Hobbit and like the Hobbit Hill and like the Shire, if you think back to the Lord of the Rings, like it's a pretty like nice place to be, especially for the hobbits. It's like they got their food, they got their parties, they just like seem to sit around and like smoke pipes and eat cakes all day and whatever. And maybe they work, but they didn't seem to work that much from the books and the movies. It seems pretty cool, but it's like sometimes like you're in a good place, but you have to go on an adventure like anyways, or like you're called to something like higher or like different. And maybe in this example, maybe it seems a little bit harrowing, but it's like, it's actually not. It's like, it's very divinely protected. Maybe it's even like fun and even better than the Shire in some ways, even if it's more adventurous. So maybe you're in a good place, but you're called to an even better place. I would heed that call if that shows up for you. As far as the pay attention to your surroundings message, I didn't really like expound on that yet. So let me see if they want to hone in on that message for you guys. One, there's like a lot of signs around you guys right now. I feel like there probably always are, at least for some of you, or there are going to be more. So just pay attention to the things that are like saying, or like repeated phrases that show up for you, or things that are like happening on repeat for you as messages or signs or synchronicities or things like that. Part of the way you might be guided is through that, and it could be just pointing you to the right path and the right choices for you, like very consistently. And it could be very easy to follow that path if you're paying attention to that, because you'll just kind of get all the signs as you need them to make the right choices. So that's cool. But I feel like it's going to be very like obvious. I don't feel like you'll have to go searching too hard for these. Like they'll be like pretty pretty there, like in your face and things like that. They're literally showing like I use this example a lot because they show me this example a lot, but they're like someone holding like a sign with like an arrow pointing like to a goal or to a target, essentially. So like I don't know if it'll literally be an arrow pointing to the way you need to go, but it could happen, of course, as a sign. But it's gonna be obvious like that, you know. Or you know, in like video games, how a lot of like newer video games. I haven't played like a ton of like super recent video games, but like I'm thinking back to like you'd be on a video game and you have like a quest and you accept this quest, and then all of a sudden you just have like a magical trail that shows you exactly where to go and what to do, or you have like the map with the mini map that has all the little things that tell you exactly where to go, and like the little, you know, description that tells you exactly what to do. And it's just like it's very like obvious. I feel like it's gonna almost be like that, but probably not literally. Beyond all that here, anything else with the pay attention to your surroundings here? I feel like what I'm getting is those are the messages they really wanted to get to with that. So I don't like this word, but if you've been dealing with anything like evil, I feel like that's going to be leaving. I feel like evil is a strange word because it's like, what even is that? It's typically used as a judgment by people about things that aren't even necessarily evil. Like I'm looking at religion right now. You know, like I almost like hesitate to even say that it's even a real thing that exists, if that makes sense. Because it just, to me, it almost seems like a judgment of something rather than like something actually is that. But I don't know if there is anything that is like been evil almost. I feel like that's leaving. Because usually if you dig into like the details of something and why something is, there's usually an explanation that's like not just like, oh, that's evil. You know, like I hesitate to use this example, and it doesn't mean you should stay around this energy or these types of people, but even people who are out there like narcissists, it's like they probably have some type of reason or wounding or something that has them be the way they are. So it's like you could look at it as evil, or you could be like, well, it's just a very wounded person acting from a very wounded place. That's not necessarily evil. It doesn't mean I'm putting myself around that and letting that affect me for any reason. But I don't know. That's my own spiel, and I could talk about that for a while. So we'll just anything else before we move on here? Nope. They're showing me like a window, but also like, you know how there are boats that have like, I can't remember, it's like plexiglass, but it's like glass bottom boats where you can kind of see into the water beneath the boats. They're showing me one of those for some reason. So what's going on here? I feel like for some of you, like your path has been like a little bit hidden from you. Like maybe the universe's source has just been making it a surprise, but it's going to be unveiled very soon. Like you'll be seeing your path very clearly, which is good because then it's much easier to go down that path. The next message they show me black tourmaline. Pretty simple message. Well, actually, there's more to it. So hold on. The first part was very simple. You're divinely protected. Of course, that's one of the things black tourmaline represents. But as like I sat with the visual, they like zoomed in on this black tourmaline like chunk, and there was like a little like door, and it was almost like a little home or something. And I feel like they give me the word fairies. Like maybe if you've ever seen like in nature, there are some people who like build these little like fairy homes, and there'll be a tree, and then they'll use like sticks or like popsicle sticks, and then they'll build like a little like house with like a little door, and there's like little mushrooms around it or something. And I don't know, it's something I've encountered and read about somewhere. The message was like actually that in some ways you're better than you realize divine protection wise. It's like there's a lot more divine protection than you realize, or things are more divinely protected than you realize. Kind of seems like they say it a lot, but maybe you guys need to hear it, or there's new people here that need to hear it. You know, they're here for the readings. So beyond that, with that little hut though, that like black tourmaline hut, let's see what else is the message here. The message I'm also hearing is like things are, if for any of you who need to hear it, more divinely protected regarding your home situation than you realize. So try not to worry too much if anything's going on, which probably won't be all of you, but that's something coming through as well. Next thing they're showing me is like, we're on this like home kick now, I guess, but they're showing me carpets as well. And kind of what's up with the carpet here. strange message, but I would kind of just be like cleaning your home and like tidying things up and kind of freshening up the energies. They're showing me feng shui as well. Like maybe some of you consider looking into that if you're looking to kind of rejuice your home or like feel better about your home, or maybe even improve things in your life. Sometimes there's kind of like an as above, so below thing that goes on with like everything. And if you want to like free up some energy in your life, like you could organize your office and throw away a bunch of things you don't need, or you could kind of tidy up your home and change the energy of your home. And maybe that changes some energies within yourself or something like that. So you don't, I don't know. Sometimes that is literal. I don't think for this message you have to take that too literally, but for some reason there's this message about tidying up your home and feng shui and like improving your surroundings. It could just improve your mood or just help shift something for you. And I'm not sure what, but that's just what they're saying. So that's kind of what I had for the earth sign, sun, moon, or rising. They're showing me the word hobby here. For some of you who need a new hobby, I feel like new hobbies are coming, or if you've gotten a message about needing a new hobby, like that's coming in, and it could even just be part of expanding who you are and what you're good at. It could even just help with some of the current things you're working on in your life to expand like what you're good at or gain new skills or perspectives through that. So I feel like some type of new hobby is coming in for some of you, maybe not all of you. Okay, and this has been a message that's coming through a lot recently as well, but there's been like a lot of fluff you've been dealing with in life. I feel like there's like fluffiness leaving, like things that don't matter, or things like that. Like you're kind of getting to what matters in a lot of ways with projects or with people or whatever, or you're getting to what matters to you. So you don't have to deal with the fluff of like what other people are saying matters that may or may not matter to you. So hope that was helpful. I'm going to close it there. Did whatever was for the highest good for you, and we'll move on to the air signs. Give me 1 second here. And if there's anything that I was missing, I'm going to ask that to bring it through now here. Owl. So one more thing. They're showing me an owl, like owl spirit animal, who likes to come in a lot. This one's like Snow White. It kind of reminds me of the one from Harry Potter, Hedwig, I think. May he rest in peace. Joke. But, well, not really, but kind of, but you get me. So what's up with the owl here? Because they're showing this owl. He's Snow White. He's on a branch. It's kind of like foggy. You're kind of in the woods here, or we're in the woods. There's like these trees. It's very dewy. Like the trees have a lot of like, they look slick or like wet. And then like more owls show up in these trees. And you have this whole flock of owls that are, it's kind of multicolored, but a lot of them are like the same. They're like Snow White. There's like a barn owl. There's all this stuff. As you kind of have this like crowd of owls up on these trees. So what's the message here regarding this one here? If you're worried about like not being watched over either like by the other side, by the angels, by source, like you really are. And again, like for whoever needs to hear this, like more so than you realize, like even if certain things are a bit disconcerting or foggy, or you're not sure where you're going. And I think many of you are sure where you're going, but, again, like just things are a bit more looked after than you realize, and you might be afraid of like straying from the path or like messing things up. But there are really a lot of different ways, because they're showing all these paths diverting, but they all kind of come back to the same place. Like there's a lot of different ways things could go and still come back to like the best outcome or the best thing for you. So I wouldn't worry too much about like, thinking one little thing's going to throw your whole path off forever or something like that. Because there's usually always a way spirit can bring it back around or get you to what's for you, as long as you're not like purposely trying to throw your path off or just like blatantly being dumb about things, of course. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just the way they're saying it, I guess, to get the message across. But so do your best not to worry too much about throwing things off or thinking things aren't divinely guided, or there's only like one way things can play out, if that makes sense. Like spirit can really like play ball with you on these things, or play with things a little bit, send you on the right detours that you love, or sending you on the right paths that are for you, or work with a mistake, you know, and you know, a lot of times as you get tuned in and divinely guided, like mistakes aren't really mistakes. They're actually like divine guidance. Like, I'm going to tell a story. And I've told this before, so some of you may have heard this, but I could tell a story. There was one time where I was newer to channeling for newer to like consciously channeling for other people. And one thing they had me do earlier on in my path was there was one time they just had me sit down with a notebook and just like channel a bunch of different messages and then tear out the pieces of paper, and then they would guide me to give them to certain people at specific times. And there's one time where I was talking to someone at work, and I wasn't on the clock actually, but I think the person was, and I think the person I was dating was also there. Like we were just in where I was working for whatever reason. And so I was talking to a coworker, and then we were talking, and then they were like, okay, they had me like put one of the notes in my pocket. They're like, okay, give her the note. And I hesitated. So I didn't really give her the notes. And then like the conversation ended and like she left, and then it was like kind of like it would have been like weird to be like, oh wait, or something like that. And so like I'm like, oh okay, I kind of missed that chance. I was a bit newer to it, so now I'd be a lot less hesitant to like just hand someone a channeled note if they had me do it nowadays, because I've had that experience in practice where I know it's gonna work out. But then we were sitting eating lunch on the same kind of like area. Because I worked at Whole Foods back in the day, so like we were just eating lunch outside of Whole Foods, and then the coworker walked by us outside where we were seated and eating, and they were kind of saying something about giving her the note, and she walked past, and then she walked past really quickly, so I didn't really have the chance. But before she like ducked inside, the door was like right there to go inside. She like dropped something. She like dropped a pen or like a pencil. She's like, "Oop!" And she like went to like drop it. I was like, "Oh hey, by the way, now that you're here, I have this note that they told me to give you, and I know it's weird, but whatever." And then she came back. She's like, "Oh yeah, that was totally for me. I was just thinking about this topic like just this morning. Like it's totally crazy that you gave me that, and in a good way, crazy, not actually crazy. That like in like the way that lined up, it was like so." And so the reason I'm talking about all that is because like the mistake allegedly would have been her like dropping the pencil, or dropping the pen or whatever. But that wasn't really a mistake. It was like the universe giving me a chance to give her the note. And it wasn't really up to chance, because it also had that energy of a synchronicity, or like the, source making something happen. Because there's like an energy to these things, or like almost like a personality to when the universe does certain things or makes things happen as like a message. It's hard to describe, but without changing, I'm going to do my best to get the words that would explain it. Like oftentimes, I know I'm going on a different tangent, but for anyone who needs to hear it, if I'm like, what's the thing? Like if there's a synchronicity, like there's a specific energy to it, or like mode that happens with it, where like I know it's a synchronicity because of how it is energetically and feels, and like and all that. And what other things should we get into? Or sometimes, like something will happen like that, like someone dropping a pencil, or I don't know, something like falls over, and it's like maybe you're thinking about something and the universe is like, stop thinking about that. And like this, I don't know, maybe you're like unpacking because you moved somewhere, and like a box tips over and all this stuff like falls out, because it was on like somewhere haphazardly, and it has that like energy to it where the universe is like, knock it off with that line of thinking or something like that. It's like there's like almost like the energy or like personality like in that thing that's happening. So maybe that's something some of you need to hear or are picking up on, and that's your verification of it or something. But it had that energy to it, so that's how I know it was like a thing. Partly how I know it was a thing, besides just like you get me, it wasn't just random. So I need a drink of water. I love all y'all giving each other love in the comments. So excuse me. So we're done with the earth signs. We're gonna move to the air signs, sun, moon, or rising. I'm out of coffee, which is fine. I'm almost out of water, but that's fine too. So we're gonna jump into the air signs, sun, moon, or rising. I'm gonna start that. Oh yeah, the circle is so good. Such a good whiteboard circle. It's okay, but it's it's better than the last one. So anyways, air signs to moon and rising. This is for you when you see it, if you're watching it now, or it's for you, of course, whenever you're watching it on YouTube, if you're watching it later. And the spiel channeled through messages ahead of time, and my spirit guides, the angels, and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we go through this. Marina says, awesome community. 100%. You're killing it, Brandon. Thanks, Lainey. I super appreciate it. Thank you for all you do. It matters. Thank you, Jessica Smith. I appreciate that. That means a lot. But yeah, I agree. I think it's an awesome community. It is an awesome community. I so appreciate the awesome people here and how you guys interact with each other, and just the, I love that you're worried about the circle. I'm the same way. I hear that. It's just fun to like, try to do things like that are silly and maybe don't matter as much, but do it as perfectly as possible. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm a Virgo stellium. I get it totally. Thank you, Marina. Glad I stumbled across your live. That means a lot. I'm glad you did too. That's super cool. When is your next intro to channeling class? I do have one scheduled for June 3rd, Saturday, June 3rd at like 1 or 2 p.m. So that I do have one scheduled on my website if you're called to that. So hopefully that works out for you, or if not, I'm sure there'll be another one. So, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like talking to a bunch of different people, here. But yeah, I think the crowd is so cool here. I so appreciate how all you guys are who show up, and are so cool in the comments and so cool with each other, and just great people. So thank you for being you. I low-key have a lot of Virgo in me. Samesies. But you know what? I think I have met some really cool Virgos. I don't think any of the signs, my spiel would be, none of the signs are inherently like bad or anything like that. You can become an evolved version of any of the signs. You can have the best expressions of any of the signs. Like there's, you're not necessarily like limited by the astrology. I feel like we can, they don't want me to get into like where I was about to go with it. And I don't know, maybe that would have sparked a different conversation, but, I hesitate to rag on any sign in particular, just because there's a lot, of course, like a lot of you already know, there's a lot more to a chart if you're going to go that route. The other side of that is, we can become the best versions of ourselves. So I never want to limit anyone and say like, oh, you're a Libra. And there are some signs maybe historically have had better times with or worse times with than others, but I never want to just assume that they're going to suck unless it becomes a weird sign for me, but even then I want to give people the benefit of the doubt and the ability to be, not sucky. So not that I could stop them from being good or bad or whatever, if you want to use those words. What's my rising? I'll tell you guys my big three. So Virgo sun, Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon is what I'd say. I mean, it's not what I'd say, it's what it is with those three. So that's my big three. Sometimes actually, no, they want me to stop what I was about to say. In the past, I've noticed like, wow, is that what happened in the past? Sometimes like you'll tell people your signs and you can just kind of feel their like assumptions and judgments as a result of it. And, I'm kind of at the point where I don't think it would bother me anyways, probably. It'd just be like, okay, like you can judge me for that, but you don't know me if you're doing that or if you're not approaching it intuitively. Because I feel like if people approach it intuitively, like I would just not be bothered by, what they'd be getting about me. But the judgments and assumptions about like a sign, usually like you're like, okay, like no. You get it though. How's this full moon treating you? Not bad, honestly. I feel like the day of it was pretty good for the most part. I think like the things that I were more physically like frustrated by would be like I'd try to like work and get a lot done, but they'd be like, nope, you're resting today. Nope, you're resting today. Nope, you're resting today. I'm like, ugh. So, but it wasn't bad, honestly, so far. If they judge, and that's their concern. Love it. I totally love that, Kara. I'd say, heck yeah. Making me so tired. Yeah, I feel that. I think that's part of it, honestly, because I was feeling that this past week, and there have been a lot of times that eclipses have just knocked me the f out. Honestly, just like with the, again, like the downloads, like the upgrades or whatever I was getting. There have been some really interesting ones. I remember there's one like lunar eclipse from years ago where I was driving. This was like 2019, I think, or early 20. No, early 2019 or like 2018. I think it was like 2018. But I was like driving, and then like I was going to. I was in a weird situation where the person I was dating lived in like a weird hut in like the middle of the woods in North Carolina, out in the middle of nowhere, and I lived somewhere a little bit closer to civilization. And we were going to her place, and on the way my car alternator went out, and so it was freezing cold, so we it was like it was, I think it was either below zero but definitely below freezing, and it was like nighttime, like, and we were just dead on the side of the road, and somehow by the grace of God, of course, like there was like a tow truck that was just 20 minutes away, and as soon as they got the call, they just like turned around and like hauled ass to come get us so we didn't like freeze on the side of the road. And we got back, they just towed us back to my place, and we got there like 5 minutes before the eclipse was like time was at, and like we got home, and then like with the eclipse energies we were just out, like my girlfriend at the time was just like asleep. I was just like, oh my God, with the energies. And it was so strange. Like there was a huge download, and there was this weird like grid thing that would like, it was like, it just looked like a grid, but it would like move through me and then kind of twist and turn. And like the energies were all twisting and turning and like move through me again. And it was doing all this work. It was very strange, but eclipses can be really potent and interesting times for like transformation and all that stuff. And I've had there have definitely been times where like, if I was like working, like, especially when I had like more like 9 to 5 type jobs, like I would just get sick. I'd just get sick during the eclipses if I was doing too much. So I don't know. Yeah, no, the universe is definitely looking out. So it was definitely, thank goodness we made it safe and stuff like that. But it was interesting. It was interesting. We got back. Sorry, just shooting some energies. Because I don't necessarily like all the energies from that time frame, so I'm like, get out of here. But it was interesting. We got back right before the time of the eclipse and all that was happening. I thought that was interesting. But was that 2019, 2020? I was actually like 2018, 2019. It was a lunar eclipse either towards the end of 2018 or the early 2019. I want to say it was the end of 2018. Yeah. So I think we're going to start the air signs reading, because I know we can just kind of, I think I'm going to try to like interact with chat more between the readings, because I don't know, it might make it more fun for everybody. A grasshopper flew into my head today. Okay. That was definitely a sign in a lot of these readings. So, I remember there was an eclipse in 2021. It was a crazy time for you. That makes sense. Yeah. You witnessed grids then too? Yeah, okay, that's really interesting and very affirming. But I haven't met anyone else who like saw that. But thank you for saying that, because that's super cool. Okay, so we love it, awesome. Yeah, and I just I don't know, full disclosure, I was like watching a random TikTok, and this one random girl was talking about how like, and it was actually about like Twitch live streaming. It wasn't even about this, but she was talking about how like one of her turnoffs was if like, I don't want to like put myself on the spot with this and say I was doing it wrong, but one of her turnoffs, I think, was like when people are live streaming and they don't acknowledge chat at all. And I just realized like when I'm in the flow in the readings and channeling, sometimes it's better for me not always to look at chat, because I'm in the middle of like delivering messages and I want to keep the flow going. But I also missed like interacting with you guys more. So like hieroglyphs written in lights. I can't tell if that is for me or for someone else who was mentioning it. For the eclipse, if you were talking about the grids, it was literally just like it just looks like something on a sheet of paper in a math class, like just square grids, but they were like twisting and turning and like moving through me and doing this work. So I'm not sure about this, but today I was feeling almost lightheaded with the head hum and ringing ears. I do feel like that was downloads, because a lot of the times when I get like energetic downloads like that, Oh, thanks, Marina. It's either like I either equate it with like upgrades or like ascension energy or like those energetic downloads is what I'd say. I'd love to talk with you about that sometime. The grids, yeah, that could be cool. It's hard to explain. Yeah, I understand. Been crying and freaking out. I totally hear you, Dana. I do feel like you'll be okay. I do get you'll be okay. But what about migraines? Oh, thank you, Tiffany. What about migraines? I tend not to get migraines as much with it. Usually, I mean, it can be very potent, but it's usually a bit more gentle with that here. Usually, I just feel the flow of energy. I feel like it only gets sick if it's like too much, which is rare nowadays, or if I'm doing too much along with it and not resting, depending on the circumstances or something like that. Been getting a lot of growing pain feeling in my legs the last few nights. Yeah, I'd say that's probably synchronistic for like either like growing like energetically or as a person or I don't feel like this may or may not be it, but I remember someone else talking about a story that, you know, someone in their life had where it's like some people they knew, like if they were trying to go in a new direction, like they or manifest something new, like their body might like ache in certain places, like their legs might ache because they're trying to move in a new direction or something like that, which might not be the same thing for you. Okay, yeah, that could be a good framework from Kara there. So I get muscle knots on my shoulders when the energies are intense. I could see that. What's the best way to say this? Sometimes I like to, they don't like what I'm about to say. Sometimes I like to hold things a little bit loosely in my understanding and let things flow a bit more, but I don't necessarily like, it's unrelated. I don't need to get into it, but it reminds me what you said about the knots on the shoulders about, it was actually something Lee Harris was talking about, who's a channeler, where it's like, if you think of like, where you would have wings as like a person and you're channeling, like you might, you know, have things happening around like the base of the neck or like shoulder blades. And maybe that doesn't perfectly tie in with you and what you're feeling with the downloads with the shoulders, but it reminded me of that. So, okay, they're telling me to move to the air signs, so moon arising. So there might be like one more that I'm supposed to talk to, you know, one more comment I'm supposed to talk to or see. All right, we're going to move into the air signs. So air signs, sun, moon arising. It's for you when you see it. Got some channel, of course, channel messages came through ahead of time. My spirit guides, the angels and source brought through any additional information that's for your highest good when we roll through these. I'm going to like mark this additionally, so when I'm editing this or posting it and putting timestamps, I know exactly when the reading starts here. Draw a smiley face. Oh my gosh, 1 second. Cool. That's our special indicator. So the first message that came through for the air signs, they showed me a basketball, and they love tying this in with basketball sometimes for the air signs. They love that Air Jordan kind of pun, but not always. But you know, they showed this basketball like bouncing, and the message for you guys is it might be time to like take life more seriously or take certain things seriously in life. The message they gave me was like, it's time to take life seriously, like put a plan in action. Like if you find yourself loafing around, it might be a good time to kind of stop loafing around as much. Like definitely time to put an action plan in place is really the main message with all of that. I feel like there are times where maybe people are like, we can just kind of goof off for a bit or do whatever, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with like with that. But then there are times where it's like time to move forward and like put a plan in place and like do our best to like stick with it and kind of move the needle a bit. I feel like if you haven't already, now's a really good time to kind of sit with a plan and put it in place. If you've already been doing this, that it just sounds like you're exactly doing what would be good for you to be doing. Excuse me. That's just confirmation for you. I'm not sure why that showed up with basketball necessarily. The thing that kind of jumped out to me about the basketball, well, let me see what they'd like to say about it. I think the way they're kind of painting it, because to me, like my thought was like ups and downs, but they're like, no, it's not really it. It was more like letting a basketball just kind of like bounce and roll freely, as opposed to someone like a pro who's like dribbling it and has like a direction with it, if that makes sense, instead of it just kind of bouncing and then rolling and sitting there. So if you have any things you'd like to take more seriously, I would definitely consider it. Next, they showed me Curious George, if you remember that children's story or movie or TV show with the dude in the yellow hat and the monkey. And they just said, like, if you have certain like repeating patterns, it's really time to get curious and ask, like, why the F is this happening over and over again? Like, it's really time to get to the roots of your issues. Like, maybe, hopefully this isn't you, but an example would be someone who has a job and like after like 1 year it always like tanks or something always happens. Or, you know, sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's just they need these different experiences. Or maybe it's like you always get into these certain relationships and it always seems to go like with this type of person, it always seems to go this certain way. And maybe it continually gets better or something, but it's like it just seems like it's a broken record or something on repeat. Like it's a good time to delve into like what is causing these like repeating patterns in your life that like keep playing on repeat. Because you probably don't want shoddy playing on repeat like a melody in your head, like that one song. But in this instance, that was a bad joke. They didn't like that joke. So I'm gonna move on. But you get it. As far as like how you could do that, if there's a way that would be helpful for you to do that, I'd like really sit and journal on it, or really like meditate on it and put your awareness, or really like whether it's scripting or manifesting, like manifest like breaking those cycles is something they're really into as a recommendation, or facilitating some, like if you do Reiki or energy healing, facilitating some energy healing like for those cycles. If you do like a distance session for them, or however you would go about doing it, or however you're intuitively guided to do it, could be helpful. It's just like time to change certain things and either bust out of old habits, yes, but also like just change certain like habits and like certain things like that, or at least investigate it and like start to uproot like the negative repeating cycles, if that makes sense. And if something's like positive and it keeps repeating and you like it, that's fine. You know, you can let that keep going. But, so next message here, they gave me the word heavy, and they kind of talked about how birds can't fly if they get too heavy, I guess in a literal sense, but more metaphorically for you. Well, actually, energetically, it's more literally. It's time to find things like that make you light, and like what makes you light and like lighter and brighter energetically, and like move towards those things, whether it's hobbies, passions, activities, jobs, people, anything. You know, and if you find yourself getting heavier or energetically around certain people or like hobbies or places, it's time to consider like why is that, and ask if you need something different. You don't necessarily need to cut them out of your life tomorrow, but you're like, okay, why is it that like every time I hang out with this person I feel heavy and get a headache, or why is it that every time I'm you know, at this job this happens and I have a tough time. So they also give me the phrase cut your losses. Like some of you might have to kind of cut your losses and move on regarding some of these things, you know, as you kind of get to the bottom of them. But I feel like some of you on the flip side, others of you are actually doing fine with this. And it's just, again, confirmation that you're heading towards lighter and brighter, and it's time to leave heaviness behind. And, you know, sometimes we just go through circumstances in life that are heavier to like teach us something or show us the truth about someone or something. So we'll go in a different direction. So that's a bit different. But just keep that in mind as well. You don't have to beat up on yourself about it. Next, they showed me like, you know, like where you go to mine like rocks and stuff for like quarry mines. They showed me mines, and they showed me like diamonds and rubies, but they also showed me like a volcano, and there's a certain stone that like people will literally go into, like rappel into volcanoes to mine this type of jasper. And because it has a lot of sulfur in it. The message was like not to put yourself in situations you really don't want to be in, even if it seems like there are potentially some rewards for it. And I have to have some caveats with this one, of course, but do your best to find like favorable situations that have favorable outcomes, like clean across the board. Because sometimes we'll stay in something that's like not quite right for us just a little bit longer than we should because there's like a potential payout or reward. And what I'm not talking about is sometimes we are guided through something that we don't necessarily want to do or go through to get to the other side, like with something that's better, or it's just like a necessary bridge we have to cross to get to where we want to go, if that makes sense. Like my example of that would be one time I worked nights for like a year, which was not fun. I'd already gone through like some pretty, not to put this energy in here, so none of the energy gets to you, but to give this story, like I'd already gone through a lot of really heavy things before it. So it, like, in some ways it wasn't as hard because of what I'd gone through before it, but in some ways it also really sucked to be like working nights all the time. And there were some things that were good because of it. And it was at Whole Foods, if you want to know more of the details. And so the things that were good is like you got paid a little bit more for working nights instead of during the day. I mean, it was really simple and easy work, so it wasn't like taking away from, what I was doing outside of that, at least on a mentally taxing like level, and I could focus on other things. The other good things was that it was a consistent schedule, so that allowed me to do readings and like schedule readings more and have an open scheduler for, doing readings in the business I was building, which wouldn't maybe not have been as possible if I'd been working days. And because daytimes, usually in those kinds of jobs, you don't have a set schedule. You're like all over the place. You're working like 3 to 10 this day and like 6 a.m. to 2 the other day. So, and the other thing it was good for me was that I had previously in some of my jobs been like my sensitivity was just ramping up like crazy. Like my channeling was ramping up like crazy. And I was just like, well, what am I going to do? Like just dealing with all these people all the time. Like I need something different. And so working on nights, and eventually I was in like a place where I was working like at nights by myself, which seemed by this other circumstances, it seemed maybe not favorable, but in other ways it was, because I didn't have to deal with people's energies. So it wasn't fun, but it was like the rite of passage or the bridge or the way that they had me, or I ended up going through, I guess, to get to where I needed to go. And it had some benefits, even if it wasn't perfect. So I don't know. And I wouldn't do it again if I could help it. That being said, like sometimes I feel like that's potentially a bit different than like what they're talking about here with this message. So that's my caveat, is like sometimes there is something we just kind of have to go through to get to the other side of where we want to go. But for an example of what this is talking about here is maybe you're like a waiter at a restaurant, and it's nice because you get big tips and I don't know, but it's like it stresses you out and you have anxiety all the time, and there's all these like detriments that come along with it. So it's kind of like this give and take, but it's like too much on like the take side, from you. It's like maybe you're about to be promoted to like shift manager, or you could become a restaurant manager in a few years or something. But it's like the question is like, is it really worth it? Is the situation you're putting yourself through that you don't really want to be in like worth the like potential rewards you might get, or are those rewards not even in alignment with where you really want to be heading, if that makes sense? I feel like now is a time to start looking at like, where is there too much take in like a give and take situation, and try to move towards something that's more favorable across the board, if you can, or if you can create that or start manifesting that. Because it's like some of the things you're putting yourself through are not worth it, as far as like the negativity you have to go through, or just some of the energies you have to deal with, or things like that. And maybe it was fine at like a certain time, but you're evolving out of it. So the universe is asking you to find better, and of course will probably help find you better at the same time. So keep that in mind. I do get that you are on the right track, at least most of you. If you're like not on the right track, or you don't feel like you are, you're at least very close to it, and that'll be shown to you soon, which is a common message, but that's a good message. So I'm not complaining for you guys here. The next thing they showed me here was a canyon, and they showed someone like about to like, they were like hanging from the side of this canyon. They've been showing this image for like a lot of different readings recently, but like this person was like about to fall off of the canyon or cliff. I don't think they actually will though. And so the message was like, if there's like something you're doing that like repeatedly like fails like over and over and over again, like year after year, month after month, and like, if anything like that is happening that you're like doing, like it's time to try something new. So there's a kind of a message to not be too hard-headed, like try something different. Spirit is protecting you sometimes with like the things that don't work, and sometimes there's just a higher road for you, if that makes sense. So I have a really silly example popping or that they're showing me for this message. Like if you're trying to start like an old people washing business and which I don't know how that would work. Like, I don't know if you just have like a weird car wash for old people and they wear bathing suits and stand on a conveyor belt and and that way they don't have to like fall in the shower and die or something. Which I didn't intend to be as dark as that got in dark humor, but I don't know. That's just what rolled off the tongue, I guess. And maybe it just keeps failing. Like old people don't want to be put on conveyor belts and put through a weird like old people wash. And like you've tried this for a few years and it just keeps like tanking. It's like, okay, time to try something else. Maybe there's something else for you that's higher and would help the collective more than the old people washing business. But on the other side, it could be something that you think is going to be really good for the world. Like, I guess an example would be an example I brought through in an earlier reading, which is like the modality I was trying to teach. And like I kept trying to get to the second class. It just kept like not working. Like there was that roadblock. It's like, it doesn't mean that time was like a waste. One thing I've heard that I think is helpful is like if you're put a lot of work into something and you get it like puts the kibosh on it, you have to move to something better. Is like it's something Lee Harris said. He's like, the universe banks things for you. It's like that progress is saved, if that makes sense, and like dispensed in a different way. Like I got a different modality that was better. But that doesn't mean also that time I put into channeling all those other symbols for the other thing I was doing won't become handy in a different way in the future, like, or in a different way for them to be worked with. So, and it doesn't mean I was wrong for what I did with them beforehand. Like they got to the right people will be working with them, and anything I did with that as far as teaching it as a modality will be honored is what I got for anyone new tuning in who is familiar with it. And they're like, wait, what's happening with that? But I don't know. It's just kind of like if you're banging your head up against the wall, it might be time to try something different. And, okay, I was going to go into something they don't need me to get into. You probably get it by now. And if you're like not sure right now, just, keep trying what you're trying, and if it keeps not working, then you'll know. Like I feel like it's going to become very blatant after a point that you have to try something new. That's kind of that message, I guess. The other messages that came through ahead of time, they showed me a diamond. It said, don't settle for less than you deserve. Settling is not an option, of course. So relationship wise, money wise, lifestyle wise. I know sometimes you might get into the argument like, oh, there's always another like level. Like there might always be more that you desire, and that's okay. But it's almost like it could also be argued like exactly that, like there's always more, don't settle in a certain way. I'm not saying like to treat people or relationships like handholds and just keep like churning through people and the love life over and over again and miss out on something great. Or I'm not saying that, but if you know you're settling, just don't kid yourself. Like don't settle is if you can help it. And I don't know, just keep that in mind. The other thing they did show me, they were on this like gemstone kick. They showed me a sapphire. This one is about expression, and the air signs seem to have gotten a similar message like this over and over again. Like they're just saying like you're really being called to speak your truth, like no matter what. And they're kind of saying like, it's okay to rock the boat, especially if it's in like, it's because you're speaking truth, because it's going to reorient the boat to where it needs to go and just somewhere more aligned, if that makes sense. And I'm hearing a weird message, and this is blatantly what I'm hearing. It's like sometimes people might not want the boat or things to go in the direction of truth, but it's like, screw those people. Like, I feel like ultimately if they were in tune and intuitive and coming from the right place, or down the road, if they do get to more of that place, then they would have looked back and wanted things to go more in alignment with like the truth and like the truth to be unveiled and things like that. But just because someone doesn't want a truth unveiled because of their own agenda doesn't mean it's like right and for the highest good for that truth to not come out. So I don't know, you might make people uncomfortable, or you might make yourself uncomfortable, and you don't have to like punch people in the face with truth or, be so vehement with your opinions that you're like losing friends left and right. But if you feel in an aligned way called to speak your truth, I definitely would in like any situation. Sometimes like, depending if a calm, collected situation, speaking your truth can really lead to really good things. You might be surprised how well things can turn out or how well things can be received. Speaking the truth, as opposed to speaking a lie. So anything else with the air sign for the air signs right now? They are showing me like, it's different than earlier visuals, but like it's just a tree they're starting out with. And, this tree is kind of in the spring. It reminds me of the tree of life, actually, but it's just a tree. It's got all his branches and his sprouting leaves. There's like a bunch of sun and like light surrounding the tree and things like that. It's really interesting because this specific tree is like impervious to like disease or like bugs. Like it can't be harmed. So you might be growing certain things in your life that you are afraid are like going to tank or be destroyed. What I'm getting to say to you is like, if they do get destroyed, that's just not the thing for you, kind of like they've been saying. But there are things you're growing potentially that are divinely protected. So they're not going to get like rot to them or disease or fall apart or something like that. Like there's something that's growing in your world that's like beautiful. And one, I almost want to say it needs to be protected. So if you're growing something that you feel is the right path, I would definitely maybe one thing you might consider is keeping it away from too many prying eyes and moving in silence with it, or just keep nourishing it in the way for the highest good in the ways you feel called, and just kind of protect it in maybe whatever ways you feel called to protect. But or the other side of that is there are certain things that are beautiful for you that just aren't going to tank. Is what I'm getting with that, which is really cool. I don't know why I'm hearing a weird sentence like the tree of life is resistant to disease, but maybe that means something to someone. It doesn't mean much to me. So, and I don't know, whatever. Anything else with this before we move on here? They're also showing like they're switching gears and showing me a cockroach next, or like a bug or like a beetle here. More specifically, a cockroach though. I don't know why they want me to tell this story, but I remember one time this isn't supposed to be a weird flex, I don't think, but I had this friend who was I don't know if I should say too much. I don't think it'll get anyone in trouble, but I had a friend who was a security guard overnight at a specific like aquarium, one place that I lived. And at the time it was legally, it's actually a really funny story, but legally and job wise, he was allowed to like have people like hang out with him while he was doing his night, security night guard thing. Because you just had to make sure he did like specific like walks and checked like alarms in certain times, and like other than that, he'd kind of just do whatever he wanted as long as something wasn't happening. So we'd get to like hang out at this aquarium all the time, and there was a certain like level of the aquarium, and of course there were like places you could like eat right in the aquarium, but there was like another level where they had like all these different just like animals and things, and there were all these like cockroaches up there on the floor. I'm like, there's literally like a food place right beneath this. Is this legal? Like, why am I even talking about this though? Like, I don't know why I felt called to talk about that story. And there's more to it, but I don't know how much is like okay for me to say in public on here. So let's see what else they'd like to bring through about why this is coming through here. So the other side of this is maybe kind of on that tree note, there's something like you're growing in your life or that's like beautiful, and you're almost like afraid of it getting infected with like other people, like cockroaches, like other people's opinions or other people's thoughts or like behaviors, or maybe you think there's something nearby that you think is going to get in and like ruin it or something, kind of like those cockroaches could get into, some type of food area and ruin things, and like a health code violation or something, probably. But I feel like you're going to be fine is what I'm getting to say, weirdly enough. So I don't know. I just feel like you're going to be fine. I don't know why that's how that all came through or why I talked about that, but I guess I'll move on here. Okay, I'm going to close that reading. So I hope that was helpful. Air signs, sun, moon, or rising, and do whatever was for your highest good. We're going to move to the water signs next. Yeah. So give me 1 second to do the whiteboard thing. And I guess I'll leave the smiley face. It's fine. Every bit of this was confirmation. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, DJ Pepper, which is a great name. Water, yes. I am almost out. I might have to get a refill. I've been worried about my health. The tree thing is for me. That makes sense. I liked your shoddy joke. Thank you. I appreciate it. I thought it was good. I think it just maybe it wasn't the direction they wanted me to go with the joke. So, but I'm glad you liked it. Pisces, moon, and rising. I'm guessing you're very intuitive. If you're dark. Yeah, it wasn't very dark, was it, Kara? But I'm glad you liked it. I'm so glad I found you. Oh, that means a lot, Alicia. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I love Pisces so much. Heck yeah. Pisces moon. Look at all the Pisces moons. Look at y'all. Look at all y'all. Swimming around, being intuitive and stuff. Cool. I always come in time for my elements. Perfect. I love that. I love that divine timing. Oh my gosh, all the Pisces moons rise up. I love it, all the have you ever done a reading for Ophiuchus? I'm not sure I know what that is actually, personally. So I'm not sure that I have, Alicia. Scorpio, Capricorn rising. Very nice, very nice. Oh, it's the 13th zodiac sign. Oh, that one. No, not necessarily. Haven't really roped that one in, and I can be a little bit like loose with all that, stuff. I think I'm just kind of trying to do the thing that people will kind of find their thing and resonate with it, if that makes sense. So I'm not opposed to trying it or doing it in the future. It just hasn't really come through as something to do, or it hasn't really just really showed up as something to try yet. So but yeah, I mean, I would consider it. Whoever was talking about channeling, I don't get it was psychosis for you. If you haven't had any sort of history of abhorrent mental health, you're probably okay, by the way, too. Steph asks, how did I start channeling? That was kind of a long journey. Do you ever pick up noise from the people watching while you do these lives? Here's what I'm getting for Lainey's question, and I'll get to the one about how I started channeling in a second here. If it's going to lead the reading in a direction that's for the highest good, and like a direction that they want it to go, I get yes. Otherwise, I'm protected. If that makes sense, is what I'm getting. So it really depends, but not typically is what I'd say. But as far as how I learned to channel, I'll keep it a bit briefer because I know we have a water signs reading to get to. I think, what's the best way to get into this? I'll start with this. There have been times people have asked me like how long I've been channeling for, and would typically on a human level start to answer like, oh, here's about the time frame where I consciously began channeling. But they have jumped in before I could answer and be like, to me, they'd correct me before I could say it. They'd be like, oh, you've been channeling your whole life. Or sometimes when I'm talking to other people, they don't want me to say what I was about to say. That's fine. But so I guess on some level, without realizing it, I've been channeling my whole life, or I've always had that connection. As far as like how it started, as far as channeling more consciously for people and like in doing that. And of course there were a lot of things that led up to it and led in this direction. But man, I think like it got to a place where a lot of this sort of stuff really interested me and intrigued me. Like one of the things, where do we start here? That really helped me the most. There's a time where I was going through some type of like illness or something where I just didn't have the energy levels I should have. And like, I'd go to the doctor and like, I'd get it checked and there's just like nothing. And it'd keep coming up with nothing. And the doctors seemed like they were getting annoyed. And I just kind of felt like I was bothering them. So I stopped going to the Western medicine doctors. But it was almost, it seemed like some type of chronic fatigue. I don't think it was quite that, honestly, when I sit and like look back on it. But it was almost kind of akin to that. And one of the only things that really helped, and there were some things like that, eating better and eating better foods, like eventually kind of did help in like certain ways, but was an energy healing session. It was the first one I ever had. And it came as like a random or seemingly out of nowhere suggestion from like a friend's wife, where she was like, oh, there's this energy healer I see, maybe you should check her out. And so I was at the point where it's like, I don't have anything to lose, so I guess I'll try it. And I wasn't like totally closed off to this stuff. necessarily I'd had certain experiences I think I'd forgotten about, like feeling energy and doing certain meditations and getting visions and things like that. And but you're just kind of like, oh, cool. And then you just go back to your life, I guess. And that's a whole other story, but I don't want to take like 2 hours on this. But she started getting like messages, and like the first thing that I noticed was like I got on the table. She talked about like crystals and like neutralizing the energy of the room, so it was a neutral energy. I'm just kind of like, okay, lady. And then I laid down on the table, the massage table for the session, and then she stood over kind of like my head, and she started doing like this and like just moving her hands around. And I'm like, what did I get into for the next hour? But then, thankfully, I felt like the energy, like I felt it, like I felt the ping and like the energy and like the vibrations. I'm like, wait a second, it's real. I'm like, okay. And so she started doing that and doing that work, and then she would get messages and it was all spot on. I'm like, okay, this is real. Like that was, and then eventually it got to a place where she got to kind of the thing that was going on with the fatigue, and then whatever she did like really unlocked it. Because then I just remember the other thing that happened was I was very present, and we kind of talked about that, like how I showed up, and she was like, you weren't very present when you showed up, but now you're very present, like you're here. And I remember feeling different in my body and things like that. But the kicker was like I actually couldn't sleep for like 2 nights straight because I had so much energy. And I felt like amazing. I was like, oh, is this how people are supposed to feel after work? Like you just do things like like you can go hang out with a friend and feel fine and not like you want to die, or like go like work on music or whatever. This is fucking great. I sort of swore, so I'm sorry, TikTok police, but I didn't totally swear. I said frickin' and the F word together, so it wasn't a real swear. It's fine. But that was one of like the things that was a key like shifting moment for me, I'd say. And like, okay, like this is real. And I was always like wanted to learn more about it since then. And it took like probably a year or maybe a year and a half since then for me to really get more experiences with that. Cause I was gonna like learn like just lessons on how to do some of that stuff from that lady, but it just never really kind of worked out. And eventually the universe just kind of took me on my own path with it. And like I was at a work one time, and I worked at a different grocery store back then, and this woman came in with her book, and I just happened to be the one to help her out because she had like a walker. And I happened to be the one that helped her out with her groceries. And then she's like, oh, hey, this book has your name on it. And if it's not for you, you can just give it to someone else or something like that. That does. And it was this book called Waking Indigo. And if you want the author's name, it's Nathan J. And you can get it on Amazon, I think, if you're curious about the book. And for me, that book answered like a lot of what was going through in my head at the time, because I completely forgot a moment, of course, because before that I'd gone into this, it was like a Christian metaphysical kick almost that my mom signed me up for because she just felt called. She's like, yeah, I feel like this will be really good for you for some reason. And I know it's weird, but will you just go to it if I pay for it? I'm like, yeah, fine. So I went, and like one of the things in these like 2 events that I went to that were that vein, and I'm not really Christian anymore or even metaphysically Christian, I'd say, but one of the things that I got from that was helpful was they were talking about how like, talking to God wasn't just for people in like the Old Testament, you can talk to God too. And so there was one time where they like had everyone do this exercise. They're like, okay, you're just gonna like go and like ask God a question. You can like write the answer or whatever. I'm like, okay. And like all these people had all these stories about like how they'd like God would give them all these messages for people, and like that they were handing out in notebooks to like an event they were doing, and it was all just like was specific dead on for them. I'm like, okay, well, I'll try it. And so that was like the first time I consciously like went to like channel something or what I would call now channeling, but I talked to God and I got an answer. I'm like, and it wasn't from my brain, it was different. I'm like, oh, okay. And I wrote it down and whatever. So, and that really was a start, but then it segued into like, once that lady gave me her book, because there were all these concepts in metaphysical Christianity that I don't get are true for me. Like, like spiritual warfare, it's kind of an iffy topic, and it could be a semantics thing where certain different people mean different things by it, but I get it's not true. Like I get the devil doesn't exist. And I know there's like this weird quote from Christianity, like, oh, the best thing the devil can do for him is convince you he's not real. But that just like, to me, is a fear psychological tactic to keep you roped into religion. It's not necessarily true. And I have to trust my intuition and channeling on it now. Because I just don't want to get wrapped up into anything false and pulled away from what I know to be true and how well it's served me and others of the light and of actual God or source, since I started doing it. So it'd be a big disservice for me to go against what I've been getting, even if it's like a little bit scary, based on what other people are trying to sell. So I can't say, but she kind of spoke to like those things and like, different things like that. And it really she talked about channeling like spirit guides, and like, then all of a sudden, like after that book kind of hit, and it really opened a lot of things up for me, and it led to a lot of series of events that, I looked into numerology, and there's a whole story where, that led to like a breakup because we both got like a quick numerology thing. And it was like talking about how, the person I was dating was like, oh, you'll be in a relationship right now, but it'll be more platonic and it will end. I'm like, oh man, that's us. And then it just went downhill, and it just sparked a lot of change. But I also met like a ton of different people who were like already into spirituality and channeling, that were already around me, that just kind of came out of the woodwork, where like, as I like talked to them about it, it was like I got a lot of different experiences of people channeling for me, and like getting a lot of different like people who could do it. And maybe some better than others per se, but it at least opened the doorway for me to start moving towards it. And I thought it was just, as I read about it, as I listened to people do it, I just thought it was the coolest thing to get like information from the divine or from God. And like, whether it was for like an oracle card deck, or it was for messages for people, or creating something, I just thought it was the coolest freaking thing. So then I just kind of kept going down the path, and I could go on forever and ever and ever, but I just kind of learned from there. And the universe led me to the people, the experiences, the universe having me channel, and getting the experience with that, and all the things I needed to get there from there, is the short version. So that's my story on how I learned to channel. That I know is a bit lengthy, and maybe not everyone needed to hear that. And so sorry if that was boring to anyone. I need people like that. I need a community like that to grow with on a one-on-one level. I think that's great. I would totally manifest that. I don't know, maybe we should start a Facebook group or something, but I think in person is also really helpful too. No, it was interesting. Perfect. And of course I could go into greater detail, but it could be probably a whole book, if I wanted it to be, or maybe I'll write an article on it or something, but, if I'm guided to, because they might not want me to, but, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for letting me know you liked it. Oh, thanks, Paige Nicole. I appreciate it. I'm the only channeler I know personally, and I'm seeking a community. Maybe it's time to create it, guys. And maybe that could be a safer space for a lot of people. Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Because I don't like talking bad about people, but if I'm going to be honest about what I've encountered, there are a lot of like weird groups out there, where you kind of go to a meetup and it's supposed to be a bunch of spiritual people, and you're like, these are not my people. I don't care how spiritual they present themselves or whatever. It's not my people. But I don't know. I think finding a group of your people, for whether it's for the lifetime or this phase of the journey or whatever, can be very powerful for that time frame. So yes, odd meetups. I've met too many. Well, no, I'm not going to agree to that. I've met a lot of people, and I'm sure it was perfect that I did, that I think were more for me to see who not to become, or just for me to see like what's actually out there, like in spiritual communities. So I didn't just buy into a bunch of bull crap. And I've just seen so many I almost want to say way too many examples of just like, oh my God, like you probably do even know, but just like different people who are purporting themselves as spiritual, or purporting their beliefs and opinions, but it's not connected or intuitive, or just, putting on like a hippie front to get laid, or, like certain weird yoga dudes, or not that all yoga dudes, I'm sure there's dudes listening who do yoga who are totally awesome. And but it's, there's just weird stuff out there. So I don't know. Did you walk into a Scientology branch? No, thankfully. Thankfully, I watched the South Park episode on Scientology before I got into this stuff, so I was forewarned not to have anything to do with it. I think even like as I got into it, though, my energy sensitivity was very keen, so I would have felt like, no. But I always got annoyed. Personally, my personal rants, and I know like maybe we're not supposed to have like things we get frustrated with, and we're supposed to be neutral and divine about things. And a lot of the times I am, but I always get personally annoyed if you go to the Mind Body Spirit festivals in some of the major cities and they have like a booth that's Scientology, because it's just like, why would you let this BS in with all this other stuff that could be really great for people and legit and healing? And I'm just like, why is there no like vetting process or something to like just make sure it's a bit more like legit, instead of something that's like, there's so many stories even beyond like just the fact that the stories are ridiculous about like Scientology being like a cult and all this like awful stuff that they put through people through. And like, there's too many stories to be like, yeah, let's just let this into our Mind Body Spirit festival. This is great. I don't know. Anyways. Yeah. I'll get into this. I know what you mean, Alicia. I'm going to go on a branch with my truth here and just say, like, I get that false light isn't a thing. It's just not true. But I think you might have meant something different semantically then. Because I think sometimes people are out there saying there's literal false light that you can connect with that's not true. To what I get, at least. And I'm not saying you're wrong or bad. And if you disagree, that's okay too. I'm not gonna beat up on you or whatever. So that's just speaking to what I get if I were to speak my truth on it. Am I doing readings today? Yes, I know I went on a huge tangent, but yeah, we're going to do the water signs next in just a second. They're telling me to get into the water signs as well. So we'll do that. And I need to refill my water. I'll probably do that after this next reading. I love your talking. It's so much fun today. I'll keep doing it then in between readings. Thank you, Destiny. I liked the visiting break too. Shake it water now. As my voice like dries out and I sound like a parched old man. I think I'll just I'm just gonna do the reading and then I'll get water afterwards. Is more what I'm feeling, but you might not be wrong at the same time. You're a vibe today. Thank you. Your voice has been. You know what? You're right. The crowd says the voice is dry. We're getting water. It's fine. I'll be right back in like 2 seconds. So. Okay. We can better focus on the message when we aren't worried about your throat. Thank you, guys. Oh my God. Florna Fawning almost had me spit out my water. Spirit guide's trying to dry him out like SpongeBob in Sandy's house. I think that's joke of the day. Oh, I'm all about the SpongeBob references, so that was good. Dang it. That was good. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Giggle fit. Love it. Yeah, I think that's the most I've laughed on like a live or a video before. Ooh. I love you guys. Okay. You guys are great. So let's we'll start now. Okay, so if you have a water sign, sun, moon, or rising, we got channel messages that came through for you ahead of time. And my spirit guides, the angels and source, will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. See if I can focus through the SpongeBob references here. Okay, so I mean, almost every single person here today has had a message about a new path. So I feel like you're heading down that, or that's coming in, or you're already on it. I feel like it would be good for you to go the distance with that, or, go through the twists and turns with that. It's leading you in the right direction. First thing that came through ahead of time, well, they're switching it up. They're showing me paper actually next with the water signs. What's up with the paper here? So they're showing me how there might have been certain things in your life, or there are certain things. I feel like it was more like past tense. So there were certain things that seemed like they were really solid, but it's when you'd go to put your hand on something, it would be like paper. It would just tear apart. It would just be bloop. It'd be like nothing, or something like that. So if there's been anything that fell apart like paper when you were trying to bring something in that was solid, or you thought it was solid, I feel like something that's actually solid is replacing some things that fell apart, or things like that. So yeah, which is a good message, I'd say. But I feel like you'll also in the future you'll be seeing things through things more like that. If something's paper, it'll be easier to see through, oh yeah, it's paper. I don't need to lean on that, or I don't need to accept this thing into my life, or something like that. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think you're just getting more clarity on what's for you and what's going to last, which is fine here. And if anything, if anything fell apart like paper, it's just not for you. Something better will replace it. That's better. So next message, they gave the word healing and just said you are going to be healed even if you think you can't be. I'm going to talk about this example. I'm a little hesitant on it, but there's one person in my life right now who has had a certain amount of exceptional trauma that they've been through. And sometimes when you've been through something, it seems when you've been through something very traumatic or exceptionally traumatic, there's all these, it just seems at least in the therapist community, or in a lot of that stuff that's out there on that, it almost seems it's not healable. It almost seems you just have to learn to cope. What I keep getting, at least for this individual in my life that I channel through whenever they mention it, is no, you can heal it. It's possible. And it might be a journey. It might take work. It might, take some things to do, but there are a lot of things that seem unhealable that are healable. It's just, as far as the therapist community goes, and I feel therapists are getting a lot better. I feel I see a lot of people in my life who are therapists getting more and more interested in spiritual healing or different modalities and ways to incorporate in their practice to really truly help people. Because I feel at the end of the day, they're realizing not all the things that we're taught in school are totally working for people. So they have to they go in and dig into what actually works, and they find different modes that work, and things like that. So some of the therapists out there might just not have the tools yet to totally bring people to heal, but I feel it's getting there. And there might be some new things, or people connecting the dots in new ways now and going forward, that will become common knowledge that will help people heal from trauma more, or at least give them more resources to figure it out on their own as far as healing those things. So there's something that you might think can't heal that can, and it could be as drastic as that, or it could be something maybe you just had a really bad breakup a year ago and you're am I ever going to heal? It's yes. So and nothing wrong with either of those areas. That's just a message and story that I suppose I'm being guided through here. So next, I guess we already talked about this, but they did give the term higher road again, but it's a different message. They said if you feel you're missing something is coming in to fill that void. So you don't have to there's a part 2 to this message as well, where it's don't get stuck on what's in your life currently. Things can evolve and prosper. They specifically give the phrase things can evolve and prosper. So there was an example. Like one time I remember I had like a lot of really great things in my life. This was 2 years ago, maybe. But I had like a lot of really good things in my life, and like a lot was on track, and there were things that were like better than they'd ever been before. But there's also just like a very like pertinent part of my life that like was just straight up missing, as far as like I'd say like more human connection, or like whether it's a romantic relationship or whatever. And it was around the time that COVID was winding down, so it kind of made sense that was kind of going on. Like people weren't like seeing each other as much and all that. But eventually like that space, like the right thing comes in, at least for the time or however long, like comes in to help with that. So yeah, I feel like if you have a void like that in any area, like something's coming in to fill it, is what I'd say. The other thing, like the other part of this, to go deeper and like don't get stuck on what's in your life currently, things can evolve and prosper, is I don't know, some of you might feel like things are stuck the way they are in your life, but they're actually like not. They're actually moving and evolving, and things are shifting into place. So like be patient, but they can like move into a period of prosperity or into things prospering for you more. They can evolve into something better. So I would definitely have hope for the future and for like what's like just your current circumstances right now as well. So anything else with that, or should we move on here? The next thing that they had come through here is just on that same note, like new things are on the way, kind of a common message recently. But so don't get caught up with like what's currently in your life on a flip side, because you're going to have new as well. Like, so you don't have to settle. And I feel like there's just a lot of new coming in for a lot of different people around this time period, and like this year and like even like next year. I feel like we've closed a lot of chapters, or like are closing a lot of chapters, like a lot of different people around this time period. So I feel like a lot of new chapters are going to be opening up this summer. And I know it's timeless, so if you're watching this way in the future, it could just be like, I know this is very broad, but summer right now is a couple months away. So it could be, actually it's like 1 month away, right? Month and a half. So I don't know, just next few weeks to like a year at the latest, absolute latest. But for you guys now, I'm getting like summertime, autumn time, going to be a lot of new chapters opening up for people. But I'd reckon it's probably sooner rather than later for most of you as far as those time frames are concerned. Beyond all that here, the next thing they showed me was a monster, and the message was like the monster. So they said that the monsters are leaving. So this is a good thing for you, actually. So there are a lot of things that have been like maybe monsters to you that are okay. Now that I read it, I want to like frame it a little bit differently, but if there's been anything around you that's like looked like a monster, it's like it might actually just turn out to not be like a negative monster. It might turn out to be not as big of a deal as it like you thought it was. Like you might have like a looming thing coming up. You're like, oh my gosh. And then like, I'm going to lose my job. And then it's like, oh, you're fine. Or something like that. Or it's like, maybe you do, but then like a new job shows up right away or something like that. Or you're just fine, So the other thing was like, if there have been like some type of what you might quantify as if that's the right way to use that word, an energetic, like a monster, or like a monster in your life metaphorically. And I know monster can be used as like a positive term, and I don't mean it this way. This time it's like negative monsters, like those are leaving is what I'd say. So I feel like you've done the work to chase away monsters that have been bothering you. And it could even be like just metaphorical internal monsters, or like thoughts, or like things like that. So something like that's happening, which is really cool. So the next message is cool. They showed me a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they were really talking about the sharp teeth of the T-Rex. So I like this message for you, because the message is like, you're actually bigger than you realize as far as like what you can accomplish. And they were kind of showing me a T-Rex that like thought it was like a sheep, and it was like with a herd of sheep, and it thought it was meek and mild, and it had a little sheep hat on, probably from like Hot Topic or something, I don't know. And but it's like, actually this T-Rex can like do anything. So it like needs to stop thinking itself as small, or like if you do that, you need to stop thinking yourself as small. It reminded me very much of there was a documentary on Netflix that was about like Tony Robbins, and I think it's called I Am Not Your Guru. And I don't know if they really want me to bring the example in, but I already started talking about it. So let's see. I'll just say it, and I'll ask them to correct anything that needs to be corrected. But there was this one dude who Tony kind of talks to in this conference, and he talks to the dude's like girlfriend or wife or whatever, and she's kind of more into she's kind of talking about like, the love of the universe and like the alignment and all that, stuff. And then he like turns the mic to the dude and he asks him like what he wants or something like that. Like, I think it was about their relationship maybe. And he's like, yeah, like he was just kind of saying what she said, but like really terribly. And like, it just like wasn't as, you could just tell it wasn't like what he really wanted, even if it sounded good on paper. And he's like, bro, that was pathetic. He didn't say that exactly. He's like, and he kind of went through this whole, speech about like a sheep that like was like a lion that was amongst sheep, excuse me. And he forgot he was a lion because he was around sheep. So he forgot how to roar, but he needs to like roar. And he pretty much just had this dude like roaring into a microphone in front of like 100 people, or more actually probably. But, for that guy, that was the thing he needed. It was like that boost of like, oh yeah, I can be this thing. I don't have to pigeonhole myself into my girlfriend's beliefs for this to be, work or I don't know. I might not be like, I watched that like years ago. I might not be even like talking about it appropriately. And maybe I'm missing some of like the nuance of what was actually happening, but it just reminded me of that, like, stop being a sheep. You're actually this other thing instead. Like you're a lion, you're a T-Rex or whatever. And I thought I'd tell that story. So, but the main message is like, you can accomplish far more than you realize. It's like, you can do anything. Like you don't have to follow the crowd, or you don't have to pretend to be someone else just to fit in or anything like that. So I know sometimes that's easier said than done, but if you do the work, I know you can do it. So next, they're moving to a different dinosaur. They're showing me a Stegosaurus, which was my favorite dinosaur as a kid. But with the Stegosaurus here, what's the message? They're talking about the spines on like the Stegosaurus's back. Like it has these like plates that are on like the back of its spine, I guess, or its back. So like some people might see, if you were like a dinosaur hunting other dinosaurs, like the spine is like a weak or like vulnerable point. I have a weird personal thing where I like, at least like when I was younger, like something about spines would like give me the heebie-jeebies. Like I didn't like looking at them, and like the concept like weirded me out, so I just like wouldn't think about them. But for the Stegosaurus, right, the spine is not very vulnerable. It has that like platelet like defending its spine, and like certain other dinosaurs and animals had something similar. And it's kind of like a message about, let me stay with it for just a second longer and get the message. It's kind of like how a lot of your weaknesses aren't really weaknesses, or in a good way, you're more covered than you realize regarding like things you think are your weaknesses. So, like you don't need to worry as much, if that makes sense. So strange segue. If you are worried about being prey, I don't think like you're going to be prey. Like that's not kind of what I'm saying really. I feel like you'll be fine. So, I mean, if you have to stand up with yourself in any weird situation like that, yeah, do it. If you're really afraid, carry some pepper spray on your keychain. I don't know why that's coming through. Not all of you need to worry about that, by the way. And that's not where that original reading message was going, but if someone needed to hear it, there you go. Next here, we're in kind of like animal land next, but they showed me a tiger, but it was like a saber-toothed tiger as well. And the message was a little bit interesting, and I almost want to like add some disclaimers or caveats to it. But the phrase they gave me was like tear through the competition. If you're in a competitive market or arena, you can win, and like you can be on top, like at least in your niche, or you will be on top. I'm like hesitant to talk about competition that way, honestly, or to have like totally that, like to sell that mindset through the message, if that makes sense. Because there might be better ways to go about things, or more collaborative ways, or better mindsets to approach things with. But if you're in something and it's a bit competitive and it's unavoidable, it's like you can be at the top, like you can succeed, you can win. So don't be, if you feel called to something, don't be discouraged if there's a lot of people into it, or anything like that, or if it's a competitive job market or anything like that. So, and it's not about like being negative towards the competition, or being, attacking the competition necessarily, or anything like that. It's, you get what I'm saying, hopefully. But, yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward as a message. So the last thing I had ahead of time, and there's going to be a few more things, because they're also showing me a UFO again, for the water signs here. And there's like a little alien in the cockpit, or the bubble, like waving at us, I guess. So what do we get to next? I'm going to read what came through. The next thing that showed up was a zebra, and they kind of talked about how the zebra has a pretty like harsh kick, like a lion would be good to be wary around well, we just talked about lions in that last one, but certain, animals might be good to be wary around, like a zebra and like the kick of the zebra, or like a horse kick, But they also gave the phrase like a kick to the teeth and said, not that I want to put that out there, can't really clear. They said, don't take crap from anyone. They used the swear word, but I'm not going to say it right now. They said like not to tolerate BS. Like it's really time to stand your ground regarding anyone like throwing BS your way. So if you have people like attacking you or, which I don't think there would be too much of that. It could just be like verbal as well, by the way, or just like, I don't know, anyone gunning for you or anything like that. Like, it's okay to like stand your ground and just like not take crap from anyone, whether it's in person or online or whatever. Personally, unless I'm guided to respond to like a weird comment from people, I've kind of found it's better to just kind of delete weird things and just forget it ever happened, honestly, and block and delete. But sometimes, I mean, that's usually what I'm guided to do. But I don't know. If you need to hear this, like, I just wouldn't take crap from anyone for whatever reason. So with the UFO in that message, they're showing like a UFO like abducting like a cow, like stereotypically, with this visual here. So what's going on here? Strange one, but in this kind of message comes through in varying ways sometimes, but I feel like you're almost being like, it's not like you're literally being abducted or anything weird like that, but the visual is like you being abducted from like an old world and brought to a new one that's like better. Sometimes things will like change against our will in our reality or our life, and it's actually the universe like trying to help us out. Like something like slips through a wormhole and you're on the other side, and it's like, oh, what about my old life? But it's actually like 10 times better. So it's like, do you really want that? Do you really want to go back to like the way things were? So something like that could be happening, or is like in process where like things might be changing against your will in some way, but it's like, it's better and it's leading somewhere good. So try not to worry too much about that if that's happening, or something like tanking and you're like, no, or something like that. Cause I feel like you're actually being led to a good place here. I feel like that's it though for the water signs. I know it's a little bit briefer than some of the other readings. So anything else before we part ways? Cause there is a giraffe showing up here in my intuitive visuals as we're going through this too. And they're talking about the giraffe's long neck here. What's up with the giraffe? It's very strange because in this visual, this giraffe is being like force-fed like leaves, and it's like it's not really hungry, but it's being fed anyways. So what the heck is going on with this giraffe here? It's a very strange message about how it might seem like the universe is like giving you more than you can handle. And it could even be like good things. Like you have like a lot of good things coming your way, but it's like all this change, or it's like all these things you have to do to prepare for it, or something like that. But it's actually like, it's not too much, if that makes sense. And it could be like preparation for the future, or like maybe the universe is an example, like ramps up busyness. And then like, as you hit like a busy period in like your job or a business, it's like, you're prepared to handle it, or, which might not be the perfect example, but it's almost like the universe is bringing you more than you bargained for. And again, they keep giving me the phrase like of a good thing. Like it could even be like more like a good thing than you were like ready for. Like the example that comes to mind, and that I think they're kind of showing me as I talk about this, is one time I was like moving, and I think I actually like watched it's not exactly what they were talking about, but I think I watched a reading. And the reading was talking about how like you're manifesting something, and then like it's not showing up, it's not showing up, it's not showing up, and then you just get like way more of that thing than you were like asking for. And to me, like before then, if I were to kind of speak what I think was happening, and if they correct me, then that's perfect. But to me, it like things always kind of seem to line up like more perfectly typically, or like things would work out really well. Like the universe knows just how much to give you or things like that. But I watched that reading. I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to ask for that. And then like what happened was I was moving, and I had like a bunch of old furniture from my moving, and I wanted to replace a lot of it. But I also like at the same time, I think one of my stepdad like sold a house, and then he had all this excess furniture he was trying to get rid of. And he's like, do you want any of it? I'm like, sure. And then all of a sudden I had just like this smorgasbord of like furniture. I'm like, I have like 3 coffee tables, and I don't need 3 coffee tables. Like it was just like too much. So I ended up having to like, sell some of it or get rid of some of it or anything like that. But it kind of reminds me of that story of like just more than you bargained for, but it's like a good thing. I feel like it's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be like things you probably have to handle, or like it might include things you have to take care of, but it's like you actually can handle it even if it seems like too much. And for maybe this giraffe was being like force fed a bunch of leaves because it was about to go on a long journey and it needed the extra energy, or maybe it was about to have to go a day without eating, so that extra food like helps tide it over or something like that. And I don't feel like that's like literally what's going to happen to you, where like you get all this good stuff and then nothing or anything like that. But those are the examples I'm getting to say to you about it. So hopefully that all makes sense, honestly. So you might get a lot of a manifestation, or I don't know, I was about to give an example I didn't like, but you get it. I don't want to be a broken record on that. So anything else before we part ways here? Next thing they're showing me is like this glass window and someone like jumping through it. I'm getting a very, very strange message about like how the phrase they're giving me, and we'll explain this, is like the obstacles in your way are not obstacles. They showed me the paper example as well from earlier in the reading. So what's up with this one here? So sometimes like, and I'm not saying this is literally going to be happening, but if you were in a more extreme situation and like you had to like get out of a burning house, and hopefully you'd be on like the first floor, so it's not like anything crazy. Like you wouldn't normally like jump through a window to get out of a situation, but if there wasn't like another easily accessible exit, you probably would, just to, save your life. So there might be certain things where you have to leave a situation. This isn't maybe not for all of you. And like things either get a little bit messy as you like try to make your exit, or maybe you have to like break a couple rules in a certain way, but it's like actually okay, if that makes sense. Like the house is going to burn down anyway. Like you probably don't need to preserve that window, if that makes sense. So it's kind of pointless to like not break through it if you have to. If there's not even going to be a wall to support it in a few hours. Beyond all that here, like there might be some obstacles like you don't want to break, but you kind of have to, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I'm saying this right. So I'm just going to sit with it one more second and see like the best clarification I can get for you. The way they're simplifying it is if you have to break a few things to get to where you need to go, like that's fine. To a certain degree. And it doesn't mean go on a rampage. And it doesn't mean go Grand Theft Auto on people or anything like that. It's more just like with discretion. If you have to break a couple rules within reason, this isn't legal advice, by the way, or anything like that. So don't do anything too crazy. But do what you have to do is what I'd say. And I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to close the reading there. I do feel like there's going to be more like fluid change for you guys. So I just feel like weird message things are just going to be a bit more fluid in how they kind of like progress going forward. Like I feel like I've gotten the message like week after week that there's going to be more flow for the water signs. So something like that. But I feel like this is very external, the way things kind of like move in and out here and just interchangeable. So I feel like you're going to have a lot moving, but that's good. That's probably what you need. Okay, I feel like I'm starting to like ramble a little bit, so I'm going to close it there, but I hope that was helpful. And we're going to move, well, I mean, that's what I have ahead of time, so hope that was helpful. Do whatever was for your highest good. There is one more. They're showing me a cruise ship next here, and I think there's a brand of cruise ship called Carnival, and for some reason they're giving me the word Carnival as well, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about that. Some of you might need, I don't know if you want to go on a cruise. That could be cool for you if you're doing that. But some of you could use a vacation maybe. And it would be a good idea to like take, even if it's like a 2-day vacation or a 3-day or with the intention to like either take a trip or staycation or whatever, it could be good. I feel like some of you actually could do well with the cruise if that calls to you. So maybe consider it, but you don't have to force it if that doesn't fit. So hopefully that makes sense. But okay, hope that was good. I need a vacay. I hear ya. My travel agent ghosted me. Boo. Cool. If I sell a painting, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, you guys are going for 100 likes? That's cool. I appreciate all the likes, by the way. Never obligated to do it. Of course you aren't, but I so appreciate how much you guys tap the like button and smash it and bring, like, that's really cool to me. So thank you. I appreciate it. And no obligation, of course. Planning my escape while listening. Totally understand. Good luck. Kick some butt. You're welcome, Lissa. So we are probably going to do a full channel mode message in just a second. I might hang out for a second beforehand. You're welcome, Dana. Marina, any way to return the energy? Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, you guys are awesome. You guys kick butt. I always, I typically find myself very happy or joyful after the lives, like getting to interact with you guys and hang out with you guys. And so I really appreciate it. Oh my gosh, 100K before channel mode. I'm honored. Thank you guys. It was a rough weekend. This was the highlight of my week. I'm sorry to hear you had a rough weekend, but I'm very glad to hear this was a highlight and was helpful for you. So that's awesome. I appreciate that. Water signs are parting waves. I like that. Can't believe you're still on. Yeah. I mean, this might have gone longer than normal because I've been taking more time to kind of hang out and chat between like the different readings. But usually it's 2.5 to 3.5 hours long. Did you hear that? Oh, did I hear some? Did I miss something? Hey, Zara. Hope you're doing great. Thanks, Zara. I'm glad to hear it. Oh, man. Oh, thank you, guys. I feel like you'll make it, Dana. I know that's a lot. I'd keep going. I feel like things will change, and maybe there are changes you need to make or moves you need to make or something in the future. But I feel like you're gonna make it in some way. And you guys, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I think I'm gonna just start the. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. I might just because I want to be polite and like wait for the 100K likes, but I also don't want to feel like you guys are like obligated to get me there before I start. So I feel like personally in my mind I'm in a weird spot with it. Like do I just do it anyways? But excuse me. Cool. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm getting to start the channel, so I so appreciate the attempt to get it to 100K beforehand. I think that's amazing, and I appreciate you guys, and you're more than welcome to tap or not. But it's always amazing to me how fast the counter goes up when you guys do that. But I'm gonna give it like 1 second, and then we're gonna start here in just a second. I might write channel on the board. I don't need to. So give me like 2 seconds. For anyone new here, thank you, Steph. For anyone new here, I don't know if there are too many people new here, but I just channel my spirit guides, the angels and source directly is what I like to say. If you need a name for them, they gave the name the Angelic Collective of Zorbidal. If you want a name, but when they gave me a name, they also said like, we don't have names up here, you know that. I'm like, yeah, but then they gave me a name anyway. So, but yeah, pretty much I just kind of close my eyes and then they start to speak through me and do that whole thing. So the readings themselves were also like channeled and intuitive, and they guide me through what to say with that. So this is a little bit different. There's it seems like there is also a transmission with the channeled readings nowadays, even if I'm not like eyes closed, channel mode. There've been a couple people commenting on that, and I definitely feel the energy when I rewatch some of the readings, but this will probably be a bit different, or there might be more of a transmission, or we'll see. But I'd say usually there is. So as far as what they would like to channel about today, they're kind of showing me the heart. They're talking about shifts, which they seem to talk about a lot. So I think I'll just step out of the way and let them talk about what they'd like to talk about for this group, this go around for this channel. So as far as what this will look like, I will probably just have my eyes closed. I'll start coughing. They'll usually laugh, and then they'll do like a little chuckle, and then they'll start speaking through me. So here we go. Give me like a minute or less, and hello and welcome to today's channel for you who are seeing this. And we would like to talk about the heart and the heart space today. For that space needs a little work for some of you, but opening that up is going to open up so much more in your life, because that can help to open up the magneticness that is inherent to your soul and you on this planet. And as you work on your heart space and open it up, you do, of course, as above so below, and in other ways, bring more love to the collective, even through just love for yourself, even just through having your heart open and radiating that heart and love energy naturally. Because you are in some ways here to shift the collective through your heart and what you can bring through your heart. The heart is a multifaceted tool in some regards. It has knowing, it has connection to the numinous, the infinite source, a direct connection to your knowing and all knowingness. It has a direct connection to your intuition, of course, also to your throat, to the mind. It is, of course, interconnected with your body and much, if not all, of your etheric being as well. So as you work on this center for you, and sometimes it might not seem like it, but it is a way to work on all of you indirectly when you are working with the heart space, healing it, opening it back up. And the more you can open it up right now within reason for sometimes you go through a phase or a space where the heart closes down, you are healing, you are grieving, and you do not need to force yourself to keep your heart open or else with an eye twitch, as you might imagine. It's okay to be where you're at with this. But if you are ready to open up that heart space and open that more to the world, for yourself, as we began to mention before, you will become more magnetic to all the things around you that belong with you, that resonate at more of a heart-based frequency, that resonate at more of a love frequency, if you will, and beyond, that are a bit more of a higher vibration. The heart is one of the places you can tune up energetically to begin to attract difference. In some ways, that is all we are trying to say with that vast ocean of words we are spewing at you. And energetically, of course, you will get the transmission you need to from source for your highest good only regarding the heart, regarding this topic. So even if you fall asleep during this, or you tune out or zone out or go into some sort of trance, you're still getting what you need from this regardless. So you do not need to overly focus on the words if that's not what you're guided to focus on. But there will be something for those of you guided to the words or to tune into the words as well. There will be something for you in the words as well. And why are we speaking of the heart so much right now? Why is that such a focus for us right now? This crowd is ready to tune that up, to open that up, and thus also start to open up the throat as is concerned with the hearts, and to start to open up that flow between the heart and the throat and the third eye and the crown and beyond. That flow is going to be very important for you going forward between all of those chakras, because it's going to open up more truth, more knowing, and your path. It will magnetize your path. It will intuitively lead you to your path. It will get you to express the things you need to express on your path. It will get you to express the things you need to express to bring your path to you. So opening up that flow between those chakras is one of the key shifts happening, yes, for humanity, but for this crowd at this time through the next 12 months or so from whenever you are seeing this. And this can play out very gently for some of you. For others, you might get a bit more of an abrasive lesson or confrontation around this that forces you to begin to open your heart if someone smashes you awake, so to speak. And not with a literal physical smash to the head or anything like that, but a circumstance that's a bit more jarring that makes you realize, oh, I should have been a bit more in my heart in that that relationship, that situation, that confrontation, that conversation. I could have come from a better place and that would have led to a better result with this person. So I am going to work on this. Conversely, some of you have really opened these areas. You're doing a commendable job for yourselves and the collective. You simply need to keep up the good work with your intuition, with your heart center. But you can always go further, at least to a certain degree. You can always unveil more. And if you can't unveil more, you can upgrade. So those of you who have come very far, you will find yourself upgrading, yes, with this message, but also in your own right, in your own ways you are guided through life and the things you are drawn to. You'll begin to upgrade these areas, yes, for yourself, but also for the collective. Of course, we are not talking about taking other people's things on or making it your burden to shift the collective by taking anything that belongs to the collective on or that belongs to others on. You need to walk your own path with your own energies. And if that is part of the lesson you learn through accidentally or purposely taking people's stuff on and realizing that is not your path, that is okay. But we digress a little bit for the one or two of you who needed to hear not to take other people's stuff on. It is not necessary with the as above, so below messages we speak about here. But if you are upgrading those areas, it is also upgrading that for humanity, for the collective, because you will begin to become a bastion of heart energy in your local community, in your online community, energetically around you at the store when you go there. You begin to transmit this frequency, this higher energy everywhere you go, and that begins to change the energy fields of others. Should it be in the highest good, and should their soul be in agreement to this, and should they be ready for this, it begins to change things in all the ways things are interconnected, of course. We harp on this topic quite often because it is important to remember the multidimensional, intradimensional interconnectedness of all things as you approach your life and even the lives of others and the ways you approach things, because these things are going to start to seep into your experience more blatantly than ever before as time goes on, as people ascend, if you will use that term, as people grow and raise in frequency. It becomes a bit more apparent and obvious that you are interconnected and influencing everything through your choices, your intuitions, your channel messages, your potency, your manifestations. And you begin to realize as you have more of an influence over these things, it's important to follow your path in the ways you are meant to, because that is what will bring the shifts naturally to the planet and the collective that need to occur. And many of you think, or at least some of you think, at least half, that you need to do something extra to really impact the collective and the world. And this is true for some of you in the path some of you signed up for. You will be doing that extra, that major business, that major player online, being that major reader that everyone goes to, where you do something major that very externally influences and impacts the collective. And that is important, and we applaud you for that. That is great. Others of you will be called to go within and heal yourself, perhaps heal your local community, and perhaps you're doing big things without realizing it through the things you are doing on yourself, in yourself. The ways you are changing just one family member through the conversations you are having, etc. You understand where we are going with this. In part, we say this so that you do not beat up on yourself regarding how big your operation is on the planet physically, how many people you seem to be influencing. Just starting with yourself is enough. If you are at a newer place with this, or you're not sure when your people will come in, especially if you feel you are meant for bigger things, you're at the right size for you now. It will grow at the right times, of course. But we also wish to not denigrate those of you who either, if you have a following, have a smaller following, or seem to influence physically less people. Your impact is felt. You are here to do what you're here to do. You will do what you are meant to do. You do not need to worry or think your impact is too small, or you do not matter, or you are not looked after as much, or anything like that. All this to really paint the picture that you opening your heart is important and is going to influence things around you for your personal world and the world at large, directly, indirectly, in a multitude of multidimensional ways. So what can you do to open up that heart energy at the right times for you? Well, it is naturally occurring as you sit and listen to this, as we say with these transmissions. But you are going to begin to be drawn to the things that are more heart open, the crowds of people that are more heart open, the businesses, the jobs, the things that are more heart open, the communities, the TV shows. It'll begin to become a bit more of a currency, you could say. We realize others have brought through a message similar, other readers, other people, but we will expand on this a little bit differently as well. It's going to become a barometer for how well your life is going in some regards, your heart energy. That is what we mean by currency. As your heart is open, you will be attracting better and better and better. This is not a message to get you to freak out if you feel like your heart is closed or to think you will be attracting worse and worse and worse. And if your heart is open and something still happens, that is okay. There is just some other part of your path that needs to occur that way, needs to be an adjustment or a tweak to you. Some other part of your being that is being healed through that, that's important for your path at this time. So no need to worry. You did not mess it up. You did not anger God or anything ridiculous like that notion. God does not necessarily get angry. God has a neutral stance on so much. And of course, if we'll use the term God, we could also say spirits. We could say Jesus if you are Christian. We could say source. Go with what resonates for you. And you will all be brought into the proper understandings for each of you as time goes on. It's impossible to stay in mistruth forever in this universe. We understand some people in the past historically may have lived lies their whole lives, some of them. That is going away. Collective is shifting out of that. It just cannot stand up. It cannot hold up. It is paper thin in the new realities that are birthing on Earth for the collective in general. But going back to what we were saying, getting into that heart energy is going to gradually, or for some of you quickly, attract better and better and better. And as you are in more heart energy, as you are feeling more heart open, as you are feeling more alive, more intuitive, more expanded, more connected through that heart center, and yes, in other ways, through the crown chakra to source, however it shows up for you, this connectedness, you're going to feel better. And your life will feel better if you are feeling better, and you'll be magnetizing better. So do not neglect the heart in your spiritual healings, in your teachings. Do not neglect that part of you right now. At least keep some of your awareness. Check in with your heart. Ask how it is doing on the day-to-day. Ask what your heart needs every now and then if you feel guided to do things that feel heart-based to you. You understand at this point. For some of you, it is as natural as breathing. You will just naturally be repelled from the things that are not as heart-based and gravitate towards the things that are, unless you need some type of lesson to, in the long run, open your heart up more or open you up more through the healing that spurs. The energy field of your hearts is expanding. For those of you tuning into this, you are getting an upgrade to the heart center, heart chakra, heart area, where the energy fields of your heart are going to be bigger. This is not a bad thing. This does not leave it open or exposed to harm from others or anything like that energetically. It just means you will be having a bigger impact through the hearts. This is not a physical enlargement of the hearts. This is energetic. But that heart field, if you will let down the walls, if you will let in the love, if you will let in the love from source, that heart field, as we've been saying, is going to change things around you. So take a second. Let's do an exercise. Just put your awareness on your heart. Physical or etheric, it does not matter, but center of your chest, if you'd like to focus on the heart center, heart chakra. Some of you may feel called to focus on the physical heart. Just trust your guts. Now see or feel a sphere around your heart or heart center, Or if you are getting a 2D image, just a circle will do. You can keep it simple. And you can breathe in this next energy we will speak of. Either breathe it in or otherwise see a golden energy from source, from your spirit guides, if that feels more comfortable to you, from the angels, if you like to work with the angels, filling this heart sphere, this sphere around your heart, the circle around your hearts. And you can breathe it into the hearts, or just see it being filled in some way. But see that circle or sphere filled with golden energy. And see that sphere or circle as it is filled with the golden energy expanding. Expanding. And this will not hurt it or anything. Expanding. Even around yourself. This won't get in the way of anything else. Expanding. See it get to the place where it is twice the size of you. And what you are connecting with right now is not just your heart, but the hearts of your energy fields. You're beginning to expand your energy fields through expanding the heart of your energy fields. Now see this golden energy that was in the heart sphere, the heart circle. Expand out, and if it feels right to you, have it flow, overflow, and flow beyond the heart sphere to the rest of your energies, as far out as would be for the highest good, as far out as you feel called to go. And let them fill as much of your energies as you feel called to, those golden energies. You're bringing more heart to your energies, bringing more heart energy to your world. And this is an exercise to, yes, expand the heart's center, but also to bring more heart energy into all of your fields, so you become more magnetic to it, so you begin to open up more for the highest good. You may find yourself expanding more and receiving messages, but it's not necessary. Some of you don't need this to receive messages. All of you could do it without doing this exercise, but you might find this is something that, for the highest good, pushes it over the edge and allows you to access more intuition. Now, around all your energy fields, you can see a silver light from source, from your spirit guides, from your angels, whatever feels best to you amongst those three. Surrounding your energy fields and your heart's energies. For the highest good, that silver energy is meant to seal the work we did today, or allow it to continue however much would be for the highest good, if that feels right to you. But is going to divinely protect your heart energy, so that you feel you can be in your heart energy without worry. We'll also allow this exercise to keep doing what it needs to do for how long would be for the highest good. But go ahead and bring your attention and awareness back to your heart center. Let it be whatever size it will be. If it shrinks back down, that's okay. If it stays expanded, that's okay. It'll move in the directions it needs to going forward. In some ways, you have awakened your heart energy more with this exercise. You've expanded your energy fields, as we talked about. And you are bringing in any divine protection, if needed, that your heart needs to flourish, or to alleviate worry so you can flourish. In truth, you are protected. You don't need to worry. But sometimes that little extra bit is what helps you feel more at peace and stop worrying. So in some ways, this has been a heart healing exercise. So you may find some emotional release. You may even find some mental release. If your mind is running at 1,000,000 miles an hour or out of control, that is okay. Sit with it. It will pass. You are allowing the heart-mind connection to be more, in a good way, that's healthy and for the highest good, solidified, strengthened. It'll make it more coherent. So what else can you do with this heart energy? Well, you might find that people are more drawn towards you, the right kinds of people. So if you've been trying to expand a business, and we're not trying to give a material incentive to this overly much, but this could be the thing that helps to draw in a new clientele or an expanded client base. This could be the thing that helps draw in the new job with better people, perhaps even better pay. This could be the thing that helps you live in joy and thus begin to attract more of that and more of the better things because you are in joy more. But that is the heart-based energy we wish to leave with you today. That is the heart expansion we wish to leave you with. That is the intuition booster we wish to leave you with. And so much more can come about from working with the heart space, which you'll see going forward as you continue. You do not need to constantly 24/7 be obsessed with the heart space for this to work or for you to attract better with the heart space. But perhaps pay a bit more attention as you go forward with what your heart needs, how your heart feels. Put your awareness on your heart as you interact with someone and see how your heart feels. Things like that. And watch how your life begins to change as you potentially use the heart as a barometer for what is around you. An intuitive vessel to see what's going on. A tool in your life. We do not mean to denigrate it to being just a tool instead of the amazing thing that it truly is for you. But if you see it as a tool in addition to that, you might actually use it. And then you might get results. So we will leave you there. We are wishing you the best heart energy for you. A fantastic week ahead. If you are here live with us, fantastic time ahead. And all the best people to find you. For you are worthy of that. You are worthy of heart energy. You are worthy of feeling love and love. You are truly worthy of all the things you desire. And even if they do not show up tomorrow, it does not mean that you are not worthy of them. So we leave you there. We are wishing you well, and may the highest and best of transpire. Take care, and farewell. Signing out for now, the Angelic Collective of Zorbital and Source. Thanks, Destiny. Hope that was fantastic for you guys. I felt like I was literally breathing out all the ways I'd close myself off following anything. That's awesome. Super awesome. You're welcome, Kelly. That was fantastic. You're welcome, Heather. Awesome. TBR, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, Jillian. You're welcome, Ren. Excuse me. You're welcome. You're welcome, Destiny. You're welcome, Eternal 8888. Was it as good for you as it was for me? Awesome. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I completely forgot about you guys hitting the like button. You guys crushed it. Thank you for the 133,000. We hit 100K right as you started channeling. That's amazing. My eyes were closed. I missed that. Great work. Not that you have to do that, but I so appreciate you guys doing that. That's awesome. It was a vibe. That's so cool. You guys are awesome. I sometimes wish I could go back and watch some chat after the lives, 'cause I'm sure there's like really cool things I miss like that. But I'm glad you guys had the cool experience of that. Oh, I love you guys too. Thank you. Excellent live. Thank you, Marina. I'm super glad to hear it. So I do want to let you guys know, I love you guys too. This is going to be the new start time for the live. It's like 3 p.m. Central Time, North American Central Time. So I appreciate that. You guys are a cool group. You guys are a cool group. Thank you for the laugh today. It was good. Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you guys for the laugh today. That was good. Truly feel lighter, happier. It sounds silly. be long ago when I prayed. I felt like light after joy. That's awesome. I don't think that sounds silly, but I'm so glad to hear you feel lighter. I feel like that is always one of the aims with this, and that's always a hope I have with anything I'm putting out there, is it's, you know, lighter for people in a good way, in the best ways. Awesome. So I don't feel like I'm gonna hang around too much longer this live. This was so helpful. So glad to hear it, Lissa. You're so welcome. So glad to hear it. That's what this feels like again today. Amazing. How does it get even better than that? I'm so glad to hear it. Oh, thank you. Did you drink water? I did before the channel, but I'll drink it now. You're welcome. You're welcome, Panda Isles. Thanks, Destiny, for the water reminder. You're welcome, Dana. Absolutely. No, totally. Jessica, good thing. Thank you to Jessica says, thank you to everyone else that said such wonderful things. It matters. Totally. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. You have a great week too, Jessica. You're welcome, Jessica Johnston. All the cool Jessicas. Yeah, so I think yeah, sometimes I do like Reiki infused guitar afterwards. I'm getting not to do it today. I think we've been on for a while. It's been 3 hours and 23 minutes, but on the West Coast. No, I'm actually I'm around Chicago-ish. So I'm in Central Time here. So if you were on the West Coast, I guess the live would start at, oh my gosh, Mountain is 2, West would be 1 p.m. So take care, Ren. You're welcome, Lainey. I hope it was great. It's 1:23 a.m. right now. Okay, yeah. Oh, really? Where? Oh, where you are. Okay, that makes sense. You're welcome, Melissa. Thank you. But I so appreciate getting to do this for you guys. I so appreciate you. I rested during channeling and woke up to the heart expanding part. I've been doing so much work. Heart work. Awesome, Kelly. That's perfect. I love that. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's awesome. I hope you get some good rest after this. I know it's late for you there, so that's cool. Lily, am I late? We are just wrapping up the live. Sorry, Lily. Of course, I'll be posting this on YouTube, on my YouTube. So you can watch the replay there for all of this. Yeah, I'll probably post tomorrow. Maybe tonight, but probably tomorrow. Your messages have gotten me through so many hard times and transformed me deeply. Thank you. That means the world. How does it get even better than that? So thanks for telling me, Lauren. And I'm so glad to hear it's helped and gotten you through those. And may the times get better and better. And, hopefully you will be able to listen in joyful times. Or maybe you'll get to a really good place. You won't feel you need to listen. That's cool too. As long as you're doing way better. But I'm glad to hear it's helped. Have a great week, Heather. Thank you. See you next Sunday. Yes, I'll see you there. It says YouTube, the same name. So my YouTube it's similar. It's actually Channeling Source with 1 L. The YouTube account name is space, so it's Channeling Space Source, but YouTube added like handles, so it's at Channeling Source with 1 L. The reason that my TikTok has 2 L's is there is like an English spelling of like UK spelling of channeling that I was just really fond of, I guess, at the time that I started this account. And now I only use the channeling with 1 L and I just haven't changed it. And I've been guided not to change it. And I think some spammer actually took Channeling Source with 1 L. So now it's difficult to get it on TikTok, but on YouTube it's Channeling Source with 1 L. Yeah, this is always so helpful. You were so helpful. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm so glad to hear it. Heck yeah. Just ran 12K time 22222. Oh, dang. You were out running. That's awesome. You're welcome. Okay. Listen, such a nice part to my Sunday. Now I can relax and watch Succession. Enjoy. But I'm so glad to hear it. You have the best week too, Destiny. You're welcome. It's good to see you. Okay. Yep. Thank you to the moderators and anyone who helped out in chats. Does he come on very often? I go live every Sunday. And right now the plan is every Sunday at 3 p.m., but we'll see. Okay, I'm going to close the live. I need to close it, but I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys. Thank you again. It's such a joy to do this. You guys rock. And I will see you next week. If not, have a beautiful rest of your week and at least a beautiful rest of your evening, okay? You guys take care.